Serena Sommers had two secrets. The first was that she had terminal cancer and was dying, but she hadn't told Ethan Blackwood. The second was that she had known for a long time that Ethan had another woman. December 31st, 2017, 2 minutes to the new year. 1 minute until Serena and Ethan's 6th wedding anniversary. In the dark, unlit room, Serena lay on the sofa in a white dress, her long hair loose, hugging a throw pillow. The screen of her phone glowed on the coffee table. The messages remained where she had left them. Serena, Ethan, today is our 6th wedding anniversary. Please come home early. I have a gift for you. Are you still coming home tonight? The messages, once sent, were like stones sinking into the sea. No response. The last message she had received from Ethan was 2 weeks ago. Hearing the chimes outside her window, Serena woke with a start, her mind a blank slate. An instant later, a loud bang echoed as brilliant fireworks exploded in the night sky, illuminating the entire living room. Drawn by the beautiful display, Serena's eyes reflected their shimmering light. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window to admire them alone. "Ethan, the fireworks, they're so beautiful." Her voice echoed in the empty hall, with no one to hear and no one to answer. When the fireworks ended, Serena picked up her phone. Seeing that Ethan still hadn't replied, she felt a wave of boredom and lay back down on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. Suddenly, she came across a post on her social media feed. The location was Metropolis General Hospital. The photo showed a newborn's tiny hand tightly gripping a man's index finger. On his ring finger was a simple silver band. The caption read, "Mother and son are doing well. It's a boy. Dad named him Andy." Serena took a deep breath, suppressing the emotions welling up inside her. She smiled as she looked out the window. It seemed he wouldn't be coming home tonight after all. Just as Serena was about to head to the bedroom, she was hit by a sudden wave of dizziness and collapsed unconscious on the floor. 8 years of marriage. Serena could summarize them in one word: calm. She and Ethan had met on a blind date. There was no story of a love that blossomed naturally. They were together simply because it felt like the right time to get married. The wedding had been sudden, after knowing each other for only 3 months. They invited close family and friends. Their love wasn't a whirlwind romance. They treated each other with the polite respect of honored guests. She did everything a good wife was supposed to do, and he was a qualified husband. Life was quiet but full. Serena had always been a gentle and mild-mannered person, and they rarely argued. Did Ethan love her? Sometimes, Serena thought she felt his love, but then again, maybe not. He was simply fulfilling his duties as a husband, devoid of any real passion. For years, they had wanted a child. But then Serena was told she had a condition that made it difficult to conceive. Ethan had said, "It's okay, we can keep trying." Serena knew he was just comforting her. Over the years, to have a child, Serena had spent 6 months drinking bitter herbal remedies and had seen countless doctors. One time, a remedy caused her stomach to bleed. It was only then that Ethan, perhaps out of pity, forbade her from drinking them anymore. As the years went by, Ethan's company grew larger and larger, and she quit her job as a kindergarten teacher. Eventually, Ethan became busier and busier, so busy that he hadn't been home to see her in a very long time. Serena couldn't even remember the last time they had sat down for a proper meal together. Despite everything, Serena hadn't given up on having a child. Not long ago, she went to the best hospital for a checkup. She didn't get the news she was hoping for. Instead, she learned she had terminal brain cancer. She didn't have much time left, 3 months at most, or maybe 1. Undergoing chemotherapy would only be a burden to him. She wasn't the kind of person who liked to cause trouble for others. It wasn't until the next morning. Serena didn't know how long she had been unconscious, but she awoke to the sound of footsteps outside the door. The next second, the door opened. Ethan walked in, dressed in a suit, looking utterly exhausted. When he saw her on the floor and the pool of blood beside her, he frowned, looking down at her from above. "Serena, I'm tired. I don't have time for your games." He didn't even glance at the dinner she had prepared on the dining table. "Here's my credit card for the month. Go buy yourself some new clothes," Ethan said, walking past her and loosening his tie. Every time he came back, Serena would stage some kind of drama. Over time, Ethan had grown tired of playing along. Serena pushed herself up from the floor, smiling at him. "You always see right through me. It's no fun at all. She nonchalantly wiped away the blood that had trickled from her nose. You're not a child anymore. Stop acting like one. The man gave her an indifferent look, took a bank card from his wallet, and placed it on the coffee table. He then turned and went straight into the master bedroom. He must have been tired. Yes, he must have spent the entire night at the hospital. The bleeding from her nose wouldn't stop. Serena clutched her nose and rushed to the guest bathroom. She tilted her head back, trying to stop the flow. But it was harder to stop than before. In the next moment, without warning, her lower body went numb, and she fell, her head hitting the edge of the sink as she crumpled to the floor in a heap. Her phone, left in the living room, rang over and over. The pain in her head intensified, and she didn't have the strength to stand up and answer it. After what felt like an eternity, she managed to push through the pain and get to her feet. It took her half an hour to finally stand, strip off her soiled clothes, and change into something clean before she could answer the phone. Thankfully, the bleeding had finally stopped. It was her mother, Helen. Her father, while making a delivery in his old pickup truck, had hit another car. The owner was demanding $10,000. Serena's family wasn't well off. Her parents had no retirement savings, and their life savings amounted to only a few $1,000s. Sensing something was wrong, Serena rushed to the scene. Stepping out of the taxi, she saw her father, Robert, humbly pleading with the car owner. Her father was mute and couldn't speak, while the other party was arrogant and dismissive. Her mother, Helen, was arguing loudly with someone, sitting on the ground and crying without a care for her appearance, claiming they were being scammed. Serena was an only child. She couldn't bear to think what would happen to them if she were to die one day. They were her biggest worry. She hurried forward. Thankfully, the police arrived promptly. After reviewing the traffic cameras at the station, it was clear that her father had indeed scraped their car. In the end, the owner insisted on compensation. After mediation from the police, they settled on $3,000. Serena had no money, so she used Ethan's card. After the matter was settled, Robert sighed and shook his head, signing to her, "I'll pay you back. You're married now, and life isn't easy." Helen, ever the pragmatist, chimed in, "We're family. What's wrong with using his money when we're in trouble? Besides," she continued, "I hear Ethan's company is about to go public. This is pocket change to him. What are you worrying about?" Robert was an honest, humble man. Helen was more direct, sharp-tongued, but with a soft heart. On the way back, Helen asked, "You'll be 30 next year. Why isn't there any news yet? Is it because he doesn't want children? It gets harder for a woman to have kids as she gets older." Serena replied, "Ethan's company is still raising capital, and the IPO is imminent. I don't want to add to his troubles. All right, Mom, let me take you home." When Serena got home, Ethan had just woken up. He asked, "I saw the transaction record from the bank card, a $3,000 charge. What was that for?" Serena, changing her shoes in the entryway, answered his question truthfully. "Dad scraped someone's car while making a delivery. It was for the damages." "The $10,000 I gave you last time, is it gone already?" Ethan asked, a hint of displeasure in his voice. Serena replied calmly, "That was for Mom's surgery. With all the follow-up treatments and expenses, it's mostly gone." "Don't worry, Dad said he'll pay you back." Ethan frowned but said nothing more. Seeing him in his suit, Serena went over to help him with his buttons and tie, a routine she performed daily. Drip, a warm trickle fell from her nose. Another nosebleed. Serena quickly covered her nose and ran to the bathroom. "Are you drinking those herbal remedies again? I told you, I'm not in a hurry for a child." Hearing his words from the bathroom, Serena felt as if a sharp knife had torn open her chest. Yet she pretended everything was fine, smiling as she said, "All right, don't worry about me. I just got a little overheated from wearing my down jacket outside. I'll be fine in a minute. Will you be home for dinner tonight?" I have a business dinner." "No." Before she could finish, the door clicked shut. Ethan was gone. She quickly took a bottle of pills from her pocket and swallowed one. Perhaps it was the medication, but her condition seemed better this time. The doctor had told her that if she experienced sudden paralysis again, not even a miracle could save her, let alone chemotherapy. She looked at the pale woman in the mirror. At nearly 30, Serena's bone structure still hinted at the beauty of her youth, but now, ravaged by illness, she had grown thin. A thought suddenly sparked in her mind. She wanted to see what the girl Ethan liked looked like. She knew the idea was absurd, but she couldn't resist. In truth, this wasn't the first time she'd had this thought. All Serena knew was that the girl's name was Ivy Reed, a third-year university student. The first time she suspected Ethan might be unfaithful was 2 years ago. He came home from a business dinner smelling of gardenia perfume. Ethan told her he was sponsoring a university student whose parents had died in a car accident. He felt sorry for her, so he decided to help. When he spoke of the girl, his eyes held an unconscious admiration and a tenderness she had never seen before. Serena had never seen that side of Ethan. She's so young but already has a clear career path. She just won first place in a national design competition. She has a bright future. When she graduates, I'm thinking of bringing her into the company. What do you think? Like a virtuous wife, Serena helped him with his tie. Of course, if you think it's a good idea, I don't know anything about business. I trust your judgment. Ethan lifted her onto his lap. Is Mrs. Blackwood getting jealous? You're the lady of the house at Pioneer Tech. A part of it is yours. Serena and Ethan's affection had grown after their marriage. They had a few intimate, sweet years and were deeply in love at the time. It wasn't until Ethan's parents brought up the subject of children and Serena couldn't conceive that they began to fight. They had countless arguments, all ending unhappily, and a distance slowly grew between them. His parents began to resent her, constantly making sarcastic remarks and bringing up her inability to have children. Serena was a soft-hearted person. Whenever she was upset, she would just hide under the covers and cry silently. Perhaps it was when Ethan discovered her secretly drinking those herbal remedies that his heart softened, and he apologized. That night, they reconciled and returned to their life as a normal couple. He said he didn't care about having children, and Serena believed him. They never brought up the subject of children again. The final confirmation of Ethan's affair came when Serena was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer and was about to tell him. She believed there should be no secrets between a husband and wife. They should face everything together. But that night he was drunk, lying on the sofa. As Serena was taking care of him, she saw a message pop up on his phone. It was from a girl named Ivy Reed. She remembered the name instantly. It was the student Ethan was sponsoring. Ivy, it's been 3 years, Mr. Blackwood. Maybe we should end this. I can't go on like this anymore. I'm sorry. Ethan, I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do. Reading those words, Serena felt her world collapse. She spent the entire night in the bedroom, staring at their wedding photo and crying. Heartache, suffocation, numbness, devastation wasn't enough to describe what Serena felt at that moment. When she was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, Serena didn't cry. But the moment she found out about Ethan's affair, Serena felt her heart shatter into a million pieces. Later, she thought, she was dying anyway. What could she do? Over their 6 years of marriage, she had long sensed that Ethan's love for her had faded. Ethan was an outstanding man, and at just over 30, he was still young. He could find a better woman to be his wife. Telling him would be pointless. She had added Ivy on a messaging app last week. The request was quickly accepted, and she had sat in her contacts list, a silent presence. Serena had scrolled through her social media feed, which was filled with posts about her inspiring and beautiful life. And she learned everything about her. Ivy had been sponsored by Ethan since high school. She was an excellent student and was admitted to Metropolis University, where she studied advertising design and had a passion for photography. Ethan had given her a top-of-the-line camera worth over $10,000, which Serena had helped him pick out. Later, with that camera, she produced many outstanding works and won numerous awards. Ivy's talent shone brightly among her peers, making her the object of envy. She was so young and already so accomplished. And yet, it made Serena intensely jealous. What man wouldn't fall for such an exceptional girl? Ethan was no exception. Ethan hadn't been home in a long time. Serena's health deteriorated, and she was barely holding on, relying on medication. Most of her updates on Ethan came from Ivy's social media feed. 1 month later, at 3 in the afternoon, the winter break ended, and Ivy had finished her postpartum confinement. Serena dressed up, applied light makeup, and wrapped a thick scarf around her face, leaving only her eyes visible. She sat in a coffee shop frequented by students. A group of people walked out of a university building and entered the shop. Listening to their conversation, Serena's gaze quickly locked onto one person. Ivy, you took a year off. What have you been up to? You've gained some weight, but it looks good on you. You were too thin before. Ivy, standing beside her, looked away evasively. She felt a pair of eyes on her and turned to meet a calm, emotionless gaze. The person was wearing a red scarf that covered most of her face, revealing only her eyes. At that single glance, a flash of panic crossed Ivy's face. She quickly composed herself, straightened her back, and walked past. A cold draft swept by, carrying a familiar scent, the light fragrance of gardenia. It was a lovely smell. So, this was the type of woman Ethan liked. She was indeed beautiful, with delicate features and a pure, graceful air. Her long hair flowed as she walked, and a faint dimple appeared when she smiled. She was youthful, beautiful, vibrant, and lively, unlike her, slowly aging with the passing years. The coffee in her hand grew cold. Since her diagnosis, she hadn't touched coffee because she wasn't supposed to. But for some reason, today she craved it. She took a sip. It was bitter with a hint of sweetness. Just as Serena paid and was about to stand up, someone bumped her shoulder from behind, and the coffee in her hand spilled everywhere. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Serena looked up. The girl in front of her had an apologetic look in her eyes, sincerely saying sorry. "How can you be fine? Your clothes are covered in coffee. How much was your outfit? I'll pay for it." Her friend walked over. "Ivy, what's wrong?" Ivy, holding her phone, said, "My boyfriend is here to pick me up. It's urgent. I accidentally bumped into her and got her clothes dirty." Her classmate asked, "What? Aren't you meeting his parents today?" "You should go, we'll handle this. Don't be late." "Okay, thanks for your help, Chloe." "I'm so sorry, miss. I'll pay for whatever it costs. Today is just a really special situation. I'm sorry." Ivy bowed in apology, then rushed out with her phone in hand. Throughout the exchange, Serena remained silent, her gaze fixed on the girl. When she heard Ivy was going to meet his parents, her chest felt as if something inside had shattered. Still clinging to a sliver of hope, Serena looked out the shop window and saw a scene that plunged her into despair. In front of a gray Audi, Ivy threw herself into a man's arms. Serena couldn't hear what the people around her were saying. All she saw was the car driving away. She felt like a puppet whose strings had been cut, her soul gone. She didn't know how she made it home. Ethan took Ivy to see his parents. And what about her? If Ivy was now welcomed into the family, what did that make her? Serena walked along the street like a zombie for over 2 hours before she finally reached home. She sat on the sofa from day until night, watching the sky darken. It was true that in moments of extreme pain, there are no tears. Her mind replayed the 6 years of her marriage to Ethan. She remembered all the happy and loving moments they had shared. "Ethan, you told me that loving someone was for a lifetime. Why did you change your mind so suddenly?" "Why, when I'm about to die, did you fall in love with someone else?" Because of their childlessness, Ethan's parents had been displeased with her for the past 6 months. Ethan had argued with his parents in front of her. They hadn't spoken for a long time. But today, just 3 hours ago, Ethan had taken Ivy to see his parents. It was after 1 in the morning when the door opened. Ethan was back. He turned on the light and immediately saw Serena sitting on the sofa. The man's pupils constricted for a moment. "It's so late. Why aren't you asleep?" Serena seemed not to hear him. It wasn't until Ethan walked closer and saw her haggard face and the pain in her eyes that he suddenly knelt, bringing his gaze level with hers, and reached out to touch her face. "Have you been crying? What happened?" Hearing his voice, Serena's wandering gaze slowly regained focus. She looked into his eyes, which still held a hint of concern. "Sorry, I had to work late at the office." Ethan stood up, sat beside her on the sofa, and pulled her into an embrace, gently patting her back to comfort her. "All right, don't cry. Did something happen, or did my parents put pressure on you again? If we can't have a child, we can't have one. We can find other ways." Serena. "Ethan, do you still love me?" The words came out as faint as a mosquito's buzz. As she spoke, she felt the man's body stiffen. He hesitated for a second before answering, "I love you. If one day I find out you've done something to betray me, I will give you a very big punishment." Ethan ruffled her hair, a mix of helplessness and affection in his touch. "Okay." Ethan was a smart man. Otherwise, he wouldn't have built his company into what it was today. With a man's intuition, Ethan had likely guessed that Serena knew something. Perhaps it was out of guilt from his infidelity. These past few days, Ethan had been coming home more frequently. He would hug her every day before leaving and after returning. Serena had nothing to do but take her medicine, stare into space, and wait for him to come home. For the past week, he had been home before 8:30 every evening. At dinner, Serena waited for him to come home before eating. She handed him a pair of chopsticks. "Is work less busy lately?" Ethan grunted in agreement. "It's a critical period for financing, so some projects have been temporarily halted. I've asked Mr. Chen to handle the less important matters." Mr. Chen was Ethan's assistant. "You've been looking pale recently. Are you sick?" Serena touched her face and smiled faintly. "I probably haven't been sleeping well." Just then, Ethan's phone, which was on the table, rang. He glanced at it and frowned. "Ivy, you haven't come to see me and the baby in a long time. The baby has a slight fever, and I don't know what to do. I brought the baby to see you. We're just downstairs." "Ethan, can you please come down and see me and the baby?" Ethan shot up from his seat and left without a word of explanation. All this time, Serena had been gambling on who Ethan would choose between her and Ivy. She knew her chances of winning were slim. She knew she didn't stand a chance, but she still wanted to know his choice. She couldn't compare to Ivy's youth and beauty. Ivy was only in her early 20s and had already given Ethan a child. His parents must have been thrilled when they met Ivy. They finally had a grandchild. Thinking of her own impending death, all that was left in her heart was a desolate sorrow. She had lost completely. Sunshine Children's Hospital at midnight, in the hospital room, Ivy's eyes were red as she held her baby, a look of grievance on her face. Ethan stood beside her, fuming. They had clearly just had an argument. Margaret Blackwood, upon hearing her grandson was sick, had also rushed to the hospital. She stood by, scolding, "Didn't I tell you last week to file for divorce from Serena? Why haven't I heard anything? I'm telling you, your career is on the rise and your business is growing. Her family is just a working-class family. You two were never a good match from the start. Serena is still young. If you divorce her now, she can still find a good man and live a good life. Give her a sum of money, and she definitely won't bother you again." "Ethan, I told you I'm not divorcing her." "Margaret, if you don't divorce her, what about Ivy and my precious grandson? Let me tell you, Serena is a barren hen who can't lay eggs. The Blackwood family will not have a daughter-in-law like that. And think about your company. When you get old, who will inherit it? In another 20 or 30 years, your father and I will be gone, and you'll be old too. You can't just let the company go to some outsider. I don't care. I'm giving you 3 days. If you can't divorce Serena by then, I'll go talk to her myself." Margaret continued to stir the pot. "You rushed into that blind date out of spite, just because I broke you and your first love up. You married Serena just to spite me. How long did you even know Serena before you married her? Besides her looks, she's completely useless. Besides, you two don't have much of a marital bond. Otherwise, how could you have found me such a wonderful new daughter-in-law and given me such a chubby grandson? Could that useless waste, Serena, have done that?" Ivy, on the verge of tears, said, "Auntie, please don't say any more to Ethan. It was my fault from the beginning. I was the one who wanted too much. If you're willing, you can adopt the child. My status is not one to be seen in public. My parents died in a car accident, and if it weren't for Ethan helping me at the hospital, I would never have gotten into university or achieved what I have now. You've all already helped me so much. After you adopt the child, I'll go study abroad. I won't disrupt your family. It's just, I really can't bear to part with this child." Ethan snapped. "Enough, stop crying. You don't have to go." Serena didn't listen to any more of the argument. In the hospital corridor, she suddenly started to laugh. She laughed and laughed until she began to cry. Tears streamed down her face. Suddenly, it was as if she understood everything. Her mother-in-law had indeed cut off contact with her after learning she couldn't have children. She had suggested they divorce many times, but Ethan had always refused. He had even told her, "Serena, we will never get a divorce." But whether it was what her mother-in-law had just said, or the divorce agreement he had brought home a week ago, after Ethan had taken Ivy to see his parents, he had returned home acting strangely. In the study, Serena had watched him sit at his desk, staring at a document for over an hour. So, what he was looking at was the divorce agreement. "Ethan, You've wanted to divorce me for a long time, haven't you? A nurse came up to her. Miss, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? The next second, Serena clutched her chest, the pain so intense she felt like she was suffocating. The emotional turmoil made her cry silently. The sharp pain that shot through her head made her vision go black, and a moment later, she fainted without warning. When she woke up again, Serena was wearing an oxygen mask, lying on a gurney. Her consciousness was hazy, but she felt as if she had lost a lot of blood. This was a children's hospital, and they didn't have the necessary medical equipment. An ambulance was arranged to transfer her to the best hospital in the city center. When the ambulance arrived, Serena was lifted onto a gurney. Dr. Vance, go get Dr. Vance, the cancer patient is vomiting blood. Her vital signs are failing, go get Dr. Vance now. There were so many people around her. Serena looked at the anxious faces of the medical staff as her vision grew darker and the sounds around her faded. He must be with Ivy and the child. Perhaps my death will be a relief for him. He'll be happier without me. If there is a next life, I hope we never meet again. Serena lost consciousness. Dr. Vance, she's passed out. The nurse looked at Serena on the hospital bed with pity in her eyes, so young to have terminal brain cancer. Perhaps by some miracle, Serena was revived. The pungent smell of disinfectant filled her nostrils. Her vision was blurry as she looked at the doctor in front of her, a stethoscope pressed against her chest. Given her condition, we need to admit her to the hospital immediately. We can't delay any longer. She recognized the doctor in front of her. Serena grabbed his white coat and whispered weakly, "No hospital, I have other things to do. You are my patient. Listen to me. There are new treatments for cancer now. As long as you stay positive, there's still hope for a cure. Don't give up, okay?" Leo Vance's gentle voice resonated in her ear. Looking into his gentle yet resolute eyes, Serena felt an overwhelming exhaustion and soon drifted back to sleep. Night fell. When the nurse came to do her rounds, she found the hospital bed empty and immediately notified the doctor. Serena couldn't bear to stay in the hospital. After getting the prescription for the new medication from the doctor, she secretly checked herself out while settling the bill. Returning home to a dark living room was something Serena had long grown accustomed to. She turned on the lights. The pillow on the sofa was still on the floor. The dinner on the table was from the day before. She hadn't had a chance to clean up, and the food had spoiled. Serena placed the bag of medicine on the table and threw away all the spoiled food. She stood at the sink, washing the dishes. Just as Serena got back, Ethan returned as well. Seeing her busy in the kitchen, Ethan's gaze deepened. His eyes then fell on the bag of medicine on the table. He took off his suit jacket and asked, "Not feeling well? Did you go to the hospital?" Hearing the voice behind her, Serena snapped back to reality. She laughed and said, "Ah, yes, I did. It's nothing serious, just a little under the weather. I went to the hospital and got some medicine. It's nothing major. You should go get some rest. I'll be done here in a minute." "Okay." Ethan glanced at the bag of medicine but didn't ask any more questions. As he turned to leave, he said, "I have some work to do for the company. I'll sleep in the study tonight." Serena's hands, washing the dishes, paused. She turned to look at him. "Work is important, but you need to rest too. Go ahead and work. Don't mind me." Ethan didn't say another word and went back to the study. In reality, sleeping in the study was just an excuse. Ethan realized that the affection between him and Serena had faded over time, leaving him feeling detached and uninterested. But out of a sense of manly duty, Ethan carried the weight of not just a company, but also the responsibility of a husband. Coming home to Serena every day, his heart felt so calm it was almost numb. Sometimes, he would even lose his temper with her for no reason. He didn't know when it started, but Ethan seemed to have grown tired of this monotonous life. As Serena's husband, the thought of the child tipped the scales in his heart even further to the other side. One cigarette after another, a document lay beside Ethan. His thoughts were a tangled mess. Hearing the door open, Ethan saw Serena walk in. He quickly put away the document on his desk, stuffing it into a drawer. Still awake. The study was filled with the smell of smoke, and Serena coughed a few times. She walked over and placed a glass of milk on his desk. "Don't smoke so much. It's bad for you." She opened the window to let the smoke out. Turning around, she picked up the blanket from the floor and folded it neatly. "Does your jacket need washing?" The dry cleaner is coming to drop off clothes tomorrow, so I can have them take it at the same time. Sure, whatever you think. Serena took the jacket and without another word left the study. In the living room, Serena checked the pockets of the jacket before sending it to the dry cleaner. She felt something inside and pulled out a black velvet box. She opened it. It was a ring box, but it was empty. Just then, the study door flew open, and Ethan appeared before Serena, a look of panic in his eyes when he saw what she was holding. Ethan frowned. That's for an employee's proposal. I just put it in my pocket. Serena smiled at him, pretending to be oblivious. Oh, I see. Is the box still useful? No, throw it away. It looks quite expensive. Let's keep it for now, just in case. I'll put it in the cabinet over here so you don't lose it. Serena always spoke gently, without a hint of aggression. Ethan watched her bustling figure as she hung the suit on a hanger and placed it by the door for the dry cleaner. Serena handled all the housework, keeping everything impeccably organized. The floors, furniture, and tables were all spotless, as clean as if they were new. Even the range hood, which was prone to getting greasy, was free of any grime. That was because Ethan was rarely home, and Serena had nothing else to do but housework. Knowing he was busy, Serena rarely bothered him. As a wife, she had always been an excellent homemaker. It was almost 11 o'clock. Serena returned to the master bedroom. Seeing Ethan still outside the door, she simply said, "Good night." As the door closed, Serena's eyes fell on the wedding photo hanging on the wall. A wave of sorrow and pain washed over her, but the emotion quickly faded, leaving her feeling calm and numb. On her social media feed, she had just posted a new update. "Mr. B, for the rest of my life, please guide me." Below it was a picture of a diamond ring on her ring finger. Her fingers were slender, and the ring looked beautiful on her hand. Looking at the reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window, Serena's hand trembled as she touched her face. "I've really gotten old." Serena took down the wedding photo from the bedside table and wiped the dust off with a tissue. In the photo, the man was in a white suit, looking composed and elegant. Serena, in a red cheongsam with her long hair pinned up, stood beside him with a gentle grace. That night, Serena sat at the foot of the bed, holding the wedding photo, and stayed there all night. Unconsciously, the sky outside began to brighten. Serena only snapped back to reality when she heard the sound of a bicycle horn from the open window. Feeling a sharp pain in her head, she endured it and took her medicine. It was a special prescription from the hospital that effectively suppressed the pain, but she couldn't take too much. The doctor said there might be side effects. After taking down the wedding photo, Serena decided to place it behind the door, covered with a white sheet. When she opened the door and took a few steps, her head spun and she almost fell. Luckily, she managed to grab the doorframe in time. Despite feeling unwell, she still made breakfast for Ethan. At 7:30 in the morning, Ethan came out of the study, smelling strongly of smoke. He must have been up all night. Serena, who had been zoning out at the dining table, snapped back to reality when she heard his footsteps. She stood up. "Are you leaving? Have some breakfast first. I made it myself." Ethan, holding a file, said, "No, I'm not eating. You don't need to prepare it in the future." He spoke without pausing and left the house without a backward glance. "Ethan," Serena called out to him. The word, once so familiar between a husband and wife, now felt so foreign to her. Ethan stopped. Serena said to his back, "If you're busy, you don't have to worry about me. You don't have to come home every day to be with me. I'm fine on my own." "I know." Ethan's heart hardened and he left. Serena looked down at her hands, trembling from the heartache. Her heart felt as if it were being squeezed, the pain so intense that every breath felt like it was laced with blood. A perfectly good breakfast, wasted again. But it wasn't her imagination. Serena was actually bleeding. This time, the bleeding was much worse than before. It wouldn't stop for more than 10 minutes, and her hair started falling out in large clumps. This was death's final ultimatum. She cleaned up the mess, flushing the hair down the toilet. Serena then started clearing the dishes from the table. She had cleaned the entire house, inside and out, top to bottom. Numbly, she took the trash downstairs to throw it away. Downstairs, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her. He was frowning, looking to be in his early 30s, dressed in casual clothes. "I've given you enough time. I told you 6 months ago that you can't delay this any longer." 6 months ago, Serena had gone to the hospital about having a child. It was then that she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he was assigned as her attending physician. Leo Vance, she had heard the name in college. He was a genius in the eyes of his classmates and an outstanding student in the eyes of his teachers. The next time she heard of him was in a newspaper profile. He was now a renowned cancer specialist. "You blocked me and ignored my messages. Now that I've found your address, I'm taking you back to the hospital for treatment. Come with me." Serena stood frozen, looking at the man whose face was etched with worry. She had never seen such an expression on Ethan's face. If he knew she was dying, would he be sad for her? "It's no use. It can't be cured." Leo scolded her. "How do you know if you don't try? No matter what, you have to come with me today." Serena had no strength left. She knew she couldn't resist if Leo took her to the hospital today. But for some reason, she didn't want anyone to know about her terminal cancer. She pleaded with him, "I don't have much time left." Leo's step slowed. Serena, her eyes red, smiled at him. "Terminal cancer. I've known for a long time. It's incurable. Dragging it out will only waste time and cause me more pain. It hurts so much every time it acts up. Dr. Vance, can you do me one last favor?" Serena brought him back to her home. Leo sat on the sofa and said to the person in the master bedroom, "No matter what, we need to get you hospitalized for chemotherapy now." After a while, Serena came out with 3 envelopes. Leo finished cutting an apple, placed it on a fruit platter with a fork, and Serena sat down on the sofa next to him. "Give me a week. I want to make sure my parents are settled. I'm an only child. I'm afraid that if I die, there will be no one to take care of them in their old age." Leo paused. 5 days at most." "Serena, that's enough." Leo saw a photo on the coffee table. He glanced at it. "Why don't you tell him? He needs to know about your condition. You need someone to take care of you." Serena said faintly, "There's no need. We'll be divorced soon. Lastly, can you do me a favor? Come home with me. There's too much to carry. I want to spend what little time I have left with them." Leo's heart ached. "If you're so unhappy, why don't you get a divorce?" Serena's lips curved into a smile, her eyes filled with tenderness. "I can't bear to. I love Ethan Blackwood. I fell in love with him the moment I saw him. That's why I can't bear to let him go." She picked up the photo from the table, gently stroking the frame. Remembering the past, Serena smiled. "This photo was taken by a stranger on our honeymoon at the beach in the end. It was my fault for not being able to give him a child. I don't hate him. Apart from that one thing, he has never done anything wrong. He has always provided for me, and he has never neglected my parents. He took good care of them and even bought them a new house. He did what he was supposed to do, and I caused him a lot of trouble. Because of the child issue, he had a falling out with his family. When we went to visit for the new year this year, Ethan was kicked out. I don't want to see him like that with his own parents." "Ethan is a good man," Serena muttered to herself. As her attending physician, Leo had also studied psychology during his time abroad. He could see that Serena had already been crushed by the illness and her husband's betrayal. She was just hanging on by a thread. Leo took a deep breath, suppressing the emotions in his heart. He stood up. "If you want to go back, I'll go with you. I'll help you pack. Serena, take all my things. Maybe I won't be coming back." She had seen it that morning. The document Ethan took was the divorce agreement. A divorce agreement he had already signed. All that was left was for her to sign it. When Serena left, she took all her belongings. Even their wedding photos were taken by Leo to be disposed of somewhere. Perhaps she would never return to this place. This large apartment was originally bought in both her and Ethan's names. The monthly mortgage was $6,000. Back then, Serena was still working, and she would always save a portion of her salary to ease his burden. Serena's reason for doing this was simply to make way for his new love. Serena never fell in love easily, but when she did, it was for a lifetime. But when she decided to give up, she wouldn't look back. She could be ruthless too. When Serena left, she took nothing but her phone, ID, and a few sets of clothes. The somewhat worn-out bus took Serena to the countryside. The ride was bumpy and nauseating. Ethan had once said he would accompany her to the countryside to visit her grandmother every year. But until her grandmother's death, he had only come a few times. The air in the countryside was fresh. Perhaps because it had just rained, the road was a bit muddy. But Serena loved the feeling of walking on it. It was like being a carefree child again. The old house was covered in cobwebs and overgrown with weeds. When her grandmother was alive, she would keep the place spotless. After a while, Leo sent a message. "I'll be back to pick you up in a week at the latest." Serena turned off her phone. Actually, it felt good to be cared for. Ethan called her sooner than she expected. Serena had forgotten how long it had been since Ethan had called her. On the third day after leaving Metropolis, Ethan called. "Why aren't you home? Where did you go?" His wife had been gone for 3 days, and when he finally contacted her, his tone was not one of concern or worry, but a cold interrogation. When Serena received the call, she was watching the rain drip from the eaves of the old house. It had rained today, and the mountains were shrouded in mist. "Tomorrow is the anniversary of Grandma's death. I came to pay my respects. Did you need something?" Hearing this, Ethan was perhaps taken aback. Yes, he had already forgotten. "Why did you clear out all your things if you were just visiting the grave? Why didn't you call and tell me?" Serena paused. She hadn't expected her departure to affect Ethan so much. She replied calmly, "I tried to call, but your line was busy. All right, go back to your work. I've ironed all your clothes and put them in your closet. I'll be back in a few days, so don't worry." Ethan, "In 2 days, Mom is hosting a family dinner. Come back as soon as you can." Serena, "Okay, I won't be late." She hung up and continued sweeping. That night, Serena went to bed early. However, to Serena's surprise, Ethan drove over 100 kilometers to find her. When Serena heard a knock on the door late at night and went to open it, she saw a travel-worn Ethan standing outside. Serena froze. "I told you, you don't have to come. I'll be back in a few days on my own." But Ethan didn't say a word. He just pulled her into a hug. "I'm sorry." Serena didn't know what he was apologizing for. Was it for the affair? Or was it because he felt guilty for neglecting his wife for the past 3 days while taking care of another woman? But Serena didn't care. "Come in. It's cold in the mountains at night. You'll get sick." Ethan came in and Serena closed the door. "I'll get you a blanket. I'll sleep in the next room. The bed is too small for 2. But Ethan didn't say a word. He hugged her from behind, and she felt the warmth of his body and his breath on her neck. Serena's heart immediately softened towards him. "I bought you a necklace. It's the one you liked before." With that, Ethan took a necklace out of his pocket. It was a pink diamond with a platinum chain, costing over $4,000. It wasn't expensive, but it was a style she liked. Serena recognized the necklace instantly. She had wanted it for a long time. But back then, they had just gotten married, and worried about putting financial pressure on Ethan, Serena had insisted she hated that style of necklace and refused to accept it. Had he really remembered this necklace after all these years? But buying it for her now meant nothing to Serena anymore. "There's no need to waste money on me. I'm not young anymore. This pink diamond is for a young girl." Serena closed her eyes, her heart a mix of emotions. She bit her lip, trying to hold back the tears. She started to feel dizzy again. After a moment, Serena pushed him away. "All right, it's getting late. You should get some rest." In his memory, Serena had always been a submissive woman. She had never refused any of his requests. He had expected her to jump up with excitement, hug him, and thank him, telling him how wonderful he was. But Serena stumbled after a few steps and almost fell. Ethan quickly caught her. "Be careful. Thanks." Serena's tone was cold and distant. Ethan helped her up and carried her to the bed. "What's wrong? Are you sick?" Seeing Serena's unusually pale face, Ethan had a fleeting suspicion that she might be ill. "I'm fine. You know I have low blood sugar. I just need a moment." Ethan couldn't resist touching Serena's face. It was cold, like a corpse. Serena took a deep breath and opened her eyes to look at Ethan. It had been a long time since this man had touched her face so gently. And at 30, faint lines were beginning to appear at the corners of his eyes. "What is it?" Ethan covered her hand with his. "Is there something else you want to say to me?" What was there to say? Serena couldn't think of anything. Was she supposed to tell him everything she had seen and heard at the hospital, and then have a huge fight with him? At this point, Serena no longer wanted to argue with Ethan. She didn't have the energy. She just wanted to close her eyes and rest quietly. "I want to rest, you can go." Serena gently pushed his hand, but it was no use. Perhaps, in that instant, Ethan truly felt a pang of sympathy for Serena. But no matter what he said, Serena didn't respond. Facing Serena's rejection, Ethan seemed to give up. Serena made the bed for him and slept in the adjacent room, drifting in and out of a restless sleep. The next morning, at 6 o'clock, the air was still cool as Serena headed up the mountain. Ethan followed behind her, carrying incense and paper money. They hadn't spoken a word since last night. On the way to the grave, Ethan checked his phone countless times, and Serena pretended not to notice. When they arrived, Ethan cleared the weeds. Serena knelt and lit the paper. Buzz, buzz, the phone vibrated incessantly. Serena lowered her gaze and said calmly, "If you're busy, you can go first. You can come back and pick me up when you're done." Ethan felt the vibration in his pocket, opened his phone, and replied to a few of Ivy's messages. Ethan saw dozens of messages from Ivy. The last one was a photo of her in the hospital, having attempted suicide by slitting her wrists. Blood was everywhere. His heart skipped a beat. "Ivy, if even you don't want me, what's the point of living?" Some things couldn't be reconciled. Ethan knelt beside Serena, took her hand, and said with a determined look, "Wait for me to come back for you." "You have to wait for me, Serena?" "Okay," he sighed, silently getting up to adjust Serena's blanket. "I have to go to the office to take care of some things. I'll be right back." Serena's heart ached. Did all cheating men like to make such empty promises? Perhaps so. Even when he left, it was quiet. But this time, Serena was truly tired. She didn't want to stay in this home anymore, didn't want to be imprisoned in his world in the final moments of her life. Watching the man's retreating back, Serena suddenly felt all her strength drain away. She leaned her head against the tombstone. "Grandma, I'll be with you soon. Growing up, besides Mom and Dad, you were the kindest to me." "Grandma, I don't dare to tell Mom and Dad. They're old. If I tell them I'm dying, I'm afraid they won't be able to handle the shock." "Grandma, why? Why did this have to happen to me? I don't want to die. I don't want my parents to bury their own child. They won't be able to bear it. I'm their only daughter." Serena sobbed uncontrollably at the tombstone. When Serena came down from the mountain, she waited in the old house for a day and a night, but Ethan never came. He broke his promise again over the next few days. Ethan called Serena several more times, but she rejected all of them. Her heart ached, and she didn't want to talk to him. It wasn't until the next morning that Serena turned her phone back on. As expected, there were over a dozen missed calls from Ethan and more than 10 text messages. She had already left Willow Creek. By the time Ethan tried to find her again, Serena was long gone. The messages all boiled down to one thing: stop this nonsense and come home. But just as she stepped out the door, she was blocked by a small car. A young woman holding a baby got out of the car. She was wearing a white lace dress and came straight towards Serena. It was Ivy. Serena didn't want to deal with her and turned to leave, but Ivy stopped her. "You must be Serena, right? I've been looking for you for a long time. How did you find me?" Serena had expected to break down in front of her, but she was calmer than she had imagined. "Ivy, I peeked at the tracking app Ethan has on your phone. I downloaded one too, and as long as I log into his account, I can find you." The software was developed by Ethan. Surprisingly, he hadn't uninstalled it. "Wait," Ivy called out, and then dropped to her knees in front of Serena. The baby in her arms instantly burst into tears. The sound of the baby crying was enough to make Serena's head explode. Why did this woman have to appear before her with a child? Serena looked at her calmly, her eyes devoid of any emotion. "What do you want?" She noticed that Ivy's eyes were as red and swollen as her own. She was looking at her with tears and snot running down her face. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Serena, I came here today with my child to beg for your forgiveness." Ivy's voice was hoarse, and her arms, holding the baby, trembled. The way she looked at Serena was as terrifying as a bottomless abyss. Serena remained silent, biting her lip hard. "Serena, I'm begging you, for the sake of the child, please divorce Ethan." It was surprising how bluntly Ivy said it. She said it so casually, as if Serena were the other woman. Serena still said nothing. Seeing Serena's reaction, Ivy assumed she disagreed. She stood up, moved closer to Serena, and knelt again. It was then that Serena noticed the bandaged wound on her wrist. She had attempted suicide. "Ethan's mother has told me everything. You and Ethan no longer have any feelings for each other. You're the one trapping him in this marriage. He doesn't love you anymore, so I've brought our child here today to beg you to divorce him. Can you please let Ethan go?" As she knelt, the baby in her arms cried even harder. Ivy began to cry too, her eyes so swollen she could barely see. Serena, I've loved Ethan for a long time. Now that we have a child together, can't you just be kind and give him back to me? You know how much he wants a child of his own. If you can't give him a child, then please let him go. Ivy was hysterical, completely ignoring the crying baby in her arms. Serena backed away as Ivy pressed forward. Serena didn't understand what this woman was trying to do. No matter what Ivy did, Serena remained calm. Could this be Ethan's plan? He was too embarrassed to say the word divorce himself because Serena had been with him from the beginning when he had nothing. He felt guilty, felt he had wronged her. So he sent Ivy. He knew she had always wanted a child, so he had Ivy bring the baby to deliberately provoke her. Ethan, there was no need, really no need for this, Serena, please. I really need Ethan. Without him, how can I go on living? You! Looking at Ivy's face, Serena's mind instantly went into a state of chaos. That feeling of weakness washed over her again. It took a while for Serena to recover. When she opened her eyes, she saw Ivy still kneeling beside her, holding the baby. This woman was truly stubborn and truly willing to do whatever it took. When Serena was 20, she was just as stubborn. Her parents had never approved of Ethan, thinking him a fickle man. Back then, Serena had ignored everyone's objections and married Ethan without a second thought. Thinking back now, so many years had passed. You can go back. I'll think about it. Serena didn't know why she said that. Was it because she was disappointed in Ethan? How much of that pitiful self-respect was left now? Thinking of this, Serena only felt a pang of sorrow. When Ivy, who was kneeling, heard this, her eyes instantly lit up, as if filled with hope. She grabbed Serena's clothes with one hand, repeatedly confirming, "Really, Serena? Are you really willing to let go? That's great, I'll go tell Ethan the good news right now. I just said I'd think about it." "Oh, I'm sorry, Serena. I was just so excited, by the way. This is my phone number. Call me anytime when you've made up your mind." With that, Ivy pressed a piece of paper into Serena's hand. It seemed she had come prepared. Ivy dusted off her knees, picked up her child, and was about to get back into the car. Serena suddenly realized something and called out to her, "Did Ethan send you here today?" Ivy shook her head and said with pursed lips, "I came on my own. It has nothing to do with him. I'm grateful that you're willing to let go." After saying that, Ivy, perhaps feeling a little guilty, didn't dare to look back at Serena. The car sped away. The weather was gradually turning colder. A gust of wind hit Serena mercilessly. She tried to take a few steps forward, but her legs suddenly gave out. Serena slumped to the ground, struggling to catch her breath for a long time. Her mind was filled with the faces of Ethan and Ivy. Had Ethan called her all night just to tell her this? That was truly unnecessary. Why did her heart hurt so much? Thunder rumbled. The wind, which had been gentle before, suddenly turned violent, whipping up countless leaves and mixing with the yellow dust to envelop Serena. The wind was too strong, and her frail body couldn't support her to stand. Serena didn't know if it was tears or rain that flowed into her mouth. It tasted a bit salty and a bit bitter, just like her life. "Grandma, ever since you left, they've all been bullying me in their own ways. Even Ethan, the one you had such high hopes for, has started to bully me. Why?" Serena finally broke down and cried. In the end, she didn't even know how she got back. This numb and broken body somehow still had the strength to return, step by step, to that place of shelter. In the middle of the night, Serena was woken by a call from Ethan. Ethan seemed to have been drinking. His tone was harsh, and he started by cursing Serena. "How long are you going to keep this up? I told you, if you come back, I'll give you as much money as you want." This was the first time Ethan had ever sworn at Serena. Serena, who was usually mild-tempered, said calmly, "I'm just out for a few days. I'll be back soon." Then she hung up. Serena uninstalled the app that allowed Ethan to track her. If one party deleted the app, it would disappear from the other's phone as well. The next day, Ethan called her again. "I can't find my tie. Where did you put it?" Serena replied, "The ties are in the third drawer on the left side of the closet. I've already sorted your suits. Just put the clothes you're not wearing in the laundry basket by the door. The laundry service will pick them up every day. If you have time, you should pay the utility bills. They're due in 2 days. Ethan, I'll be home in a few days." By then, Ethan would probably be asking for a divorce. In her final days, Serena wanted to wander around and see the places where she grew up. Standing by the sea, Serena felt a chill. She wrapped her clothes tighter around her, her long hair blowing in the wind, her eyes filled with a mournful expression. It seemed she was slowly beginning to accept the fact that she was dying. Her life was slipping away day by day, bit by bit, so she cherished every place she saw now. The 5th day. The next day, on the bus to the city, Serena was still thinking. If she could have given Ethan a child, would he have still cheated on her? Serena had pondered this question all night without finding an answer. Serena didn't go back to the home she shared with Ethan. Instead, she called Ivy. "Do you have a minute? Come to the Starlight Cafe. Bring Ethan's child. I want to see your child." Serena knew the child was innocent. In fact, she had wanted to hold his child since yesterday. She longed to see what Ethan's child looked like, to see if he resembled him. But yesterday, she hadn't been able to control her emotions, so she hadn't even glanced at the child. Ivy readily agreed and immediately brought the child to the cafe. She was wearing a light green chiffon dress with a ruffled collar. At 20, Serena had loved to wear clothes of that style. The pink diamond necklace around Ivy's neck caught Serena's eye. She recognized it at once. It was the one Ethan had bought to appease her that night, the one she had rejected. She hadn't expected it to appear on Ivy's neck so soon. The girl in front of her, only in her early 20s, had fair skin and delicate, pure features. She was a classic beauty. The necklace suited her perfectly. Ivy noticed her gaze and looked down at the pink pendant. "It's beautiful, isn't it? Ethan gave it to me." "Serena, you promised you would divorce Ethan. You're not going to go back on your word, are you?" Serena didn't answer the question about the divorce. "The necklace is beautiful," Ivy said. "Actually, I think this style is a bit outdated, but it was his thought that counts, so I couldn't refuse. If you like it, I can give it to you. He's given me a lot of jewelry at home. I have classes and exams, so it's not convenient to wear them. The most expensive one was a gift from an auction. It cost over $500,000, so it's too valuable for me to wear out." She seemed to be showing off, but also recounting the loving past she shared with Ethan. Serena's heart ached fiercely. $500,000. In all her years as Mrs. Blackwood, Ethan had never given her such an expensive gift. It turned out the answer to whether he loved her or not had been there all along. Serena's thoughts drifted for a moment. "When did it start between you and him?" "A long time ago. At first, Ethan would always be careful. He didn't want me to have his child." Hearing this, Serena felt she had heard enough. If Ivy continued, Serena didn't know how much more she could bear. Serena's dull gaze fell on the child in Ivy's arms. "The child looks just like Ethan, especially the eyes. They're practically identical." Serena smiled, but it was hard to tell if it was out of happiness or sadness. She stared at the child, then suddenly looked at Ivy. "Can I hold the baby?" Ivy hesitated for a second, but then quickly nodded and handed the child to Serena. Holding the baby, Serena's heart ached, and a wave of sorrow washed over her. But Serena had forgotten that she was a terminal cancer patient with very little strength. Just talking to Ivy and picking up a few cups had already exhausted her. Suddenly, Serena's arms went weak, and with a violent shake, the baby slipped from her grasp and fell to the floor. Ivy's eyes widened in horror. Serena tried to catch the baby, but she failed. The child, only a little over a month old, fell to the ground. "Ah, my baby," Ivy shrieked, immediately scooping up the child to check for injuries. Her eyes, red with panic, glared at Serena with fury. "I thought you were really going to let go. So you were lying to me all along. You wanted to kill my child?" Serena was terrified, her face pale. I'm sorry," but the next second, she was violently dragged aside, and then, smack, a heavy slap landed on Serena's face. She clutched her cheek, her mind going blank. "Ethan roared, 'Serena, you tried to kill my child. I never thought you could be so cruel. You wouldn't even spare such a small child.' Ethan, who had just arrived at the cafe, snatched the baby from Serena. Just moments before, Serena had been holding the baby above her head, as if she were about to drop him. But in reality, she had no such intention. Serena looked at Ethan, unsure of how to explain herself. Her mouth felt as if it were sealed shut. She couldn't utter a single word. "Serena, I never thought you were this kind of person." Ethan slapped her across the face. It hurt so much, but the pain in her heart was worse. Serena looked up at Ethan, stunned. She had never imagined he would raise a hand to her for that woman. Ethan, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. Stay away from my child from now on. There was no emotion in Ethan's eyes. He held the baby in his left arm, took Ivy's hand with his right, and left the cafe, leaving Serena standing there alone. Whether it was from the slap or something else, Serena's head throbbed. She felt a liquid trickle from her nose. She wiped it away absent-mindedly and saw her hand covered in blood. It was happening again. She staggered out of the cafe, wanting to get away, but her body wouldn't obey. She collapsed after just a few steps. Serena, Serena. Before she passed out, she heard a voice full of concern. Serena struggled to open her eyes and vaguely saw Leo's anxious face. Then, she knew no more. When she woke up again, she was in the hospital. The person by her side was still Leo. Serena, didn't I tell you? Your condition is too fragile to be moving around, and you can't handle any stress. Though his words were scolding, it was clear he was concerned for her. As Serena's attending physician, his feelings for her were not so simple. Thank you, Serena said, looking at Leo with a soft voice. Leo looked at her and sighed helplessly. This girl, still thanking him at a time like this. Leo, where's my phone? She realized her phone was missing and thought she might have left it at the cafe. I have it, Leo said, looking at her. Can I have it? Serena asked. She still had many things to do and needed her phone. Serena, you need to rest. Don't be on your phone all the time, Leo instructed. It wasn't that he didn't want her to have her phone, but he was afraid she would see something she shouldn't. I'm fine, I've rested enough. Please give it to me. Leo frowned. He knew he couldn't keep her phone from her forever, so he took it out of his pocket. As soon as Serena got her phone, she saw a news headline. Shameless homewrecker tries to kill original wife's child in public. The headline was strikingly similar to what she had experienced today. Except she wasn't the homewrecker. She clicked on it, and her own face appeared on the screen. Lying down, she shot up. Everything that had happened in the cafe today had been recorded and posted online. And most importantly, she had become the so-called homewrecker. Seeing Serena's reaction, Leo knew what she had seen. No, it's not like that. It's not what they're saying. I didn't want to drop their child. Serena, get some rest. He reached for her phone, but Serena wouldn't let him take it. She scrolled through the comments, all of them cursing her. She was the victim in this whole affair, yet now she was the one being targeted. Leo comforted her. I know you're not that kind of person. You're not the one at fault. These people online don't know the whole story. They're just talking nonsense. You don't have to pay them any mind, Leo persuaded. In Serena's current state, she couldn't handle any kind of stress. That was why he hadn't wanted to give her the phone in the first place. But he had no reason not to, so he could only watch it all unfold. I'm fine, Serena shook her head. She turned off her phone. The comments were too vicious. She didn't have the courage to keep reading. I want to go for a walk, she said to Leo. The air in the hospital room was too stuffy, and it was suffocating her. She wanted to go outside, get some fresh air, and maybe clear her head. Okay, I'll go with you, Leo said, helping Serena out of bed. But as soon as his hand touched her shoulder, she collapsed into his arms. Leo panicked. Serena had just woken up and had fainted again. This was not a good sign. Serena, I will cure you, he said, his gaze firm. He then carried her out of the room and to the operating room. Serena needed to start chemotherapy immediately, or she wouldn't last much longer. Meanwhile, at Serena's home. This is the homewrecker's house. A group of people stood at the doorstep, looking menacing. They were clearly up to no good. The internet was a terrifying place. Her address had been doxed. Are those her parents inside? A woman said with a cold look. She hated homewreckers more than anything and always participated in these kinds of activities. Looks like it, another woman said. Who are you? What are you doing at my house? Helen Sommers noticed the crowd outside her door and questioned them. She didn't know what was going on or why these people were here. Is Serena your daughter? Asked the woman who hated homewreckers the most. Yes, what about it? Helen frowned slightly. Had Serena gotten into some trouble? Why were so many people at their door? Did you know your daughter is a homewrecker? She continued. Homewrecker? Helen's expression was one of shock. What are you talking about? How could my daughter be a homewrecker? She knew perfectly well that Serena and Ethan had met on a blind date. In her memory, their relationship was also very good. How could her daughter be a homewrecker in this woman's words? Don't try to cover for your daughter. You know very well what she is." Another person sneered, looking at Helen with disdain. She saw this woman, with her shrewish appearance, and figured she couldn't raise a good daughter. She was just trying to cover for her daughter now, because this kind of thing wasn't something to be proud of. "You watch your mouth," I said. "My daughter is not, and she is not." Helen pointed at the woman. She could endure insults, but not her daughter. Why were so many people coming to her door to spread rumors about her daughter? She wouldn't stand for it. It's easy to spread rumors, but hard to clear your name. "Whatever you say here is useless. My daughter is innocent. She is not the homewrecker you claim she is." Helen's attitude was firm. She knew she couldn't back down now. If she did, these people would only become more emboldened and would surely fabricate even more stories about her daughter. Let me tell you, your daughter's affair has already been posted online. We all saw the video before coming here." She then opened her phone and showed the video to Helen. The woman in the video was indeed Serena, she admitted. But she didn't know the circumstances of the incident, nor why she was being called a homewrecker. Watching the video, Helen's face instantly turned pale. She staggered and almost lost her footing. Her daughter, her pride and joy, had become a homewrecker in the eyes of others. Her hands trembled as she tried to turn off the phone, but the woman snatched it away. "What?" Still trying to deny it. "Let me tell you, we're here today to get justice for the original wife. Your daughter was the other woman, and we're going to make her pay." With that, she raised her hand and slapped Helen across the face. Helen didn't have time to react and took the full force of the blow. Hadn't he heard everything they had just said? Leo looked at their reactions, a satisfied smile playing on his lips, then he left with Robert and Helen. He knew these people wouldn't give up easily, but at least for today, they wouldn't dare to cause any more trouble. Robert, just back from a delivery, saw this and dropped his truck, running over. He glared at everyone in front of him, shielding his wife. Though he was mute, he had to protect his family. Well, if it isn't the homewrecker's dad." A man stepped forward, sneering at Robert. "I knew it. Normal parents don't raise kids like that. A mute and a shrew, it's no surprise they raised a homewrecker." Helen wanted to say more, but Robert stopped her. He looked at Helen and signed for her to go back inside. The slap Helen had just received pained him deeply. As a man, it was his shame not to be able to protect his wife and daughter. "No," Helen said, looking at Robert. She considered herself quite eloquent, but she still couldn't win against these people. Let alone Robert, who couldn't speak. Robert frowned, signaling his displeasure. Helen understood, but she chose to stand with him. "What? Does it hurt to see your wife get hit?" A man stepped forward, questioning Robert. He grabbed Robert by the collar, his face full of contempt. He didn't believe a mute could cause any trouble. Robert was small, and in front of the tall man, he was lifted up like a chick. Then he was thrown into the yard. "Robert," Helen cried out, watching him. These people were demons. They had no regard for them at all. "Watch your step when you go out from now on, or I'll beat you every time I see you," the man said, pointing at Robert menacingly. They were bullies, preying on the weak. In front of someone stronger, they were cowards. But in front of someone weaker, they acted tough. For the next few days, Robert and Helen didn't even dare to leave the house. Robert tried to go out to make deliveries, but as soon as he stepped outside, he was met with pointing fingers and whispers. He had always been a proud man. Though he couldn't speak, he had never done anything to be ashamed of. To be treated like this now, he couldn't bear it. And Serena, in the hospital, had been in a coma for days. The Blackwood villa? "Son, when are you going to get a divorce?" Margaret Blackwood asked Ethan, holding her precious grandson. Having always looked down on the Somers family, she now couldn't stand the sight of them. "Look at the precious grandson Ivy gave me. Isn't he adorable?" she said, cooing at Andy in her arms. "If Ethan hadn't arrived in time that day, I'm afraid," Ivy said, glancing at Ethan to gauge his reaction. "Sigh, a barren hen that won't even be dealt with." "I really don't know what you're thinking," Margaret said, rolling her eyes at Ethan. In her heart, she had long considered Ivy her true daughter-in-law, and as for Serena, she just wanted to get rid of her as soon as possible. "I have my own plans," Ethan said with a cold expression. He had grown tired of hearing these words day after day. Margaret was constantly nagging him about divorcing Serena to the point where his ears were ringing. But he himself wasn't sure what he really wanted. "I don't care if you have plans or not. You'd better sort this out quickly. Both Ivy and my grandson need a proper status," Margaret said, standing up with the baby in her arms. "Come on, Ivy, let's go upstairs and rest." With that, she left Ethan alone in the living room. As she left, Ivy glanced at Ethan. Her expression was filled with greed. At the hospital, Serena finally woke up. "Serena, you're awake." Seeing Serena awake, Leo's spirits lifted. For the past few days, he had been by her bedside. He hadn't even dared to blink, for fear of missing the moment she woke up. Serena's condition was too critical. He could only feel at ease by staying close. "How many days was I asleep?" Serena asked Leo. She knew she had been asleep for a long time. She had a very long dream. She dreamt of all the little moments with Ethan. They could never go back to how they were. 3 days, Leo replied. If Serena hadn't woken up tonight, she might never have woken up at all. But thankfully, she did. Only he knew how worried he had been. "How have things been these past few days?" Serena continued. Leo should have understood what she was asking about. "It's fine now. The storm will blow over," Leo reassured her. In fact, he hadn't been out much himself these past few days and had rarely even looked at his phone. So he wasn't sure how the situation had developed. "That's good," Serena nodded. She had never experienced anything like this, but she knew how terrifying online bullying could be. Thankfully, she had been unconscious for the past few days. Otherwise, she didn't know if she could have endured it. "Are you hungry? I'll go get you something to eat," Leo asked. She had been in a coma for so long, sustained only by IV fluids. Her stomach was empty. He thought she should eat something. It would be good for her. "I'm not hungry. I want to go for a walk," Serena said, looking out the window. She remembered wanting to go for a walk before she passed out, but she fainted before she could. Now that she was awake, she still had the same thought. After being in bed for so many days, she felt like her limbs were atrophying. "Let's eat first, then we can go for a walk, okay?" Leo asked. Serena's stomach was empty, so she had no energy. He wasn't against her going out, he just wanted her to eat first. "Okay," Serena nodded. She didn't have the energy to bargain with Leo, so she agreed to whatever he said. However, after Leo left the room, she followed him out. She couldn't rely on Leo for everything. She needed to be able to do some things on her own. Going for a walk was a simple thing. She could do it herself. She went down to the first floor, planning to visit the hospital garden. But as soon as she entered the elevator, she heard whispers. "Look, isn't that the homewrecker from the internet?" "I think so. What is she doing at the hospital?" "Probably got beaten up. People like her deserve to be in the hospital, or even dead. I heard they even found her family's house. Her parents are too scared to even go out. People like her should be locked up so they don't go around ruining people's lives." They didn't seem to care that Serena was right there, as if they were deliberately saying it for her to hear. Serena was cornered, feeling suffocated. She didn't really care about what they said about her, but she heard them say her parents had also been hurt. They could say whatever they wanted about her, but how dare they say anything about her parents? She burst out of the elevator and ran outside with all her might. She had to go home. To see her parents, ignoring all the stairs, she ran as fast as she could. When she reached the entrance, she hailed a taxi and got in. Thank goodness she hadn't come out with Leo. He would never have let her go home. Sitting in the taxi, Serena's heart pounded in her chest, filled with worry and anxiety. She closed her eyes, trying to calm herself, but the sharp, judgmental voices still echoed in her ears, like 1,000 tiny knives piercing her heart. "Driver, please hurry," she said, opening her eyes and looking at him pleadingly. The driver glanced at her anxious expression but said nothing, simply pressing down on the accelerator. Finally, the taxi pulled up in front of Serena's apartment building. There seemed to be more people downstairs than usual, many of them unfamiliar faces. She had put on a mask before leaving the hospital, knowing she was easily recognizable now. To avoid trouble, she had to disguise herself. She quietly slipped into the building, trying to avoid everyone's gaze. She could hear people whispering but didn't dare to stop, only quickening her pace up the stairs. When she reached her own front door, she found it blocked by a crowd of people. Seeing them, she turned to go back downstairs, but someone with sharp eyes spotted her. "Homewrecker," a woman shouted. Serena's body went rigid. She slowly turned to face the people pointing and staring at her. Her heart was filled with fear and unease, but she tried her best to remain calm and explain, "I'm not a homewrecker. It's not what you think." They refused to listen to her explanation, as if they had already made up their minds. Serena couldn't face them and turned to run back downstairs. She didn't understand why these people had become like this. She hadn't done anything wrong. She was an innocent victim, so why was everyone blaming her? But they gave her no chance to escape, blocking the stairwell completely. Even her neighbors, who had always been friendly, were now pointing fingers at her. Robert and Helen heard the commotion outside and rushed out. They had gotten used to the noise over the past few days, but today they heard their daughter's voice. "Serena," Helen called out. Serena turned and looked at her mother. Her hair was streaked with gray, something that wasn't there before. Her father's face was bruised. She knew these people were responsible. "If you have a problem, take it up with me. What kind of cowards are you, coming to my parents' house?" Serena stepped in front of her parents, determined to protect them from any more harm. "Good, you're here too. Let's beat this homewrecker to death," someone in the crowd shouted. Serena couldn't believe how unreasonable these people were. She had done nothing wrong, yet she was being treated like this. She clenched her fists, trying to stay calm. "What proof do you have that I'm a homewrecker? Can you twist the truth with just one video?" She wouldn't let herself be wronged any longer. She would tell them everything, make them see the truth. But they wouldn't listen to her. They only believed what they saw and heard. They started pushing Serena, and she stumbled back against the wall. Her parents saw this and rushed to shield her. "Stop it!" A strong male voice called from downstairs. Serena looked down and saw Leo. After buying Serena food, Leo had returned to the hospital room to find her gone. He searched the entire hospital but couldn't find her. Her phone was still with him. He thought for a moment and concluded that Serena must have gone home. After all, in his opinion, there was nowhere else she would want to go right now. He hadn't expected to see this scene upon his arrival. Serena's current physical condition couldn't handle this kind of stress. He had to stop this immediately. Leo strode up the stairs, his gaze firm and cold, sweeping over the people attacking Serena. His powerful presence was intimidating, and the once aggressive crowd involuntarily took a few steps back. "What do you think you're doing?" Leo asked, his voice full of authority and unquestionable power. The crowd was stunned by Leo's presence, and for a moment, no one dared to answer. They were a bunch of bullies who only picked on the weak. They thought they could get away with harassing an old couple and a young woman, but faced with a young man, they lost their nerve. And Leo's current glare was terrifying. They didn't even dare to meet his eyes. "Leave now if you don't want to end up in jail. Do you realize you're causing a public disturbance?" Leo said, his eyes scanning the crowd. The once aggressive crowd was frightened by Leo's words and dared not make another move. They exchanged glances and then quietly dispersed. Leo walked over to Serena, his heart filled with worry and anger as he saw her pale face and trembling body. He gently took her hand, trying to offer her some comfort and support. Serena looked at Leo, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. She knew that at this moment, only Leo could help and support her. "Let's go inside," Helen said to Leo. She had never met Leo before and didn't know his relationship with her daughter. But she knew he had just saved them, and she couldn't treat him poorly. "Mr. and Mrs. Somers, my name is Leo Vance. I'm Serena's attending physician," Leo introduced himself. He didn't know that Serena hadn't told her parents about her illness. Serena's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected Leo to introduce himself like that, but she had never told her parents about her condition. "Attending physician?" Helen was stunned. "What's wrong with my daughter? Why does she need an attending physician?" she asked Leo. As far as she knew, Serena was just taking herbal remedies to help with her pregnancy. There was no need for an attending physician. Leo looked at Helen. He knew this would be hard for her and Robert to accept, but he had to tell them the truth. He took a deep breath, trying to keep his voice calm. "Serena has cancer, it's terminal." Helen's body went rigid. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She turned to look at Serena, whose face was pale and whose eyes were filled with fear and anxiety. It was all true. Her daughter had cancer, and it was terminal. The news was a devastating blow to Helen. Her world seemed to crumble in an instant. Robert stood frozen, unable to accept the reality. Their daughter, who had always been so healthy and vibrant, how could she have cancer? "That bastard Ethan Blackwood, it's all his fault for not taking care of my daughter." Helen clenched her fists. When she entrusted her daughter to him, she was a lively, healthy young woman. In just a few short years, she had become like this. Now she was being judged wherever she went, and she had cancer. I'm going to go settle the score with him right now, she said, heading for the door. Mom, come back, Serena called out to her. She knew her mother's temper. If she went to confront Ethan now, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although her marriage to Ethan was a mistake, they had been together for many years. If her mother did something drastic, she would feel terrible. Serena, we can't just let this go. He has to take responsibility for you. Helen was emotional. She couldn't accept her daughter suffering such pain and injustice. Serena looked at her mother, her heart filled with helplessness and pain. She knew her mother meant well, but she also knew that confronting Ethan now would be pointless. It would only make things more complicated and chaotic. Mom, the most important thing right now is my health. I will cooperate with the treatment and try to get better soon, Serena said to her mother. She knew her condition was serious, and she might not recover, but she didn't want her parents to worry. She said this only to comfort them. Helen looked at her daughter, her eyes filled with tears and reluctance. She knew her daughter was a strong, brave child who would fight the illness, but she also knew that this was all because of that bastard Ethan. She had to get justice for her daughter Robert, who had been in a daze, finally came to his senses. He looked at his daughter, his heart filled with guilt and pain. He had always thought his daughter was living a happy life with the Blackwoods, but he never imagined she was suffering so much. As a father, he had failed in his duty to protect his daughter. He looked at Serena, his eyes filled with self-blame. He held Serena's hand tightly, as if trying to give her strength and courage. Serena looked at her father, a warmth spreading through her heart. She knew that no matter what happened, her parents would always be by her side, supporting and encouraging her. In that moment, she didn't feel alone. With her parents' love, she had more courage and strength to face the illness. She had chosen to hide her condition because she didn't want her parents to worry. But now, she knew she couldn't hide it any longer. She needed her parents' support and love. She needed to face this difficult time with them. Leo stood by, watching the family support and comfort each other, a warmth spreading through his heart. He knew he shouldn't disturb their family reunion. He stood quietly to the side, waiting for them to calm down. Serena held her parents' hands tightly, her eyes welling up. She knew she couldn't run away from this anymore. She had to face her illness bravely, get treatment, and put her parents' minds at ease. Leo looked at Serena with admiration and sympathy. He knew this young woman needed more than just treatment. She needed love and support. He decided that no matter what happened, he would be by her side, giving her strength and encouragement. Mr. and Mrs. Somers, I will do everything I can to help Serena, Leo said to them earnestly. He knew that treating cancer was not easy, but he was willing to give it his all to give Serena a fighting chance. Robert and Helen looked at Leo with gratitude and trust. They knew he was a responsible and capable doctor who would provide the best treatment for their daughter. Thank you, doctor, Helen said, her eyes welling up. She was grateful for everything he had done for her daughter and relieved to have met such a good doctor. Leo smiled slightly. He didn't make any grand promises, just gently patted Serena's shoulder, encouraging her to be strong and brave. Serena looked at Leo with gratitude and trust. Her physical condition was worse than expected, and she needed to be more careful with her emotions and health. Serena just felt pathetic for making her family the target of public scorn. Seeing her father get hurt, she was powerless to do anything. On this day, Serena lay in her hospital bed, her face pale and gaunt. Her eyes stared blankly out the window, filled with an endless sorrow and helplessness. She knew her time was running out, yet Ethan, the man who had once promised to spend his life with her, hadn't even called or sent a single message. He must be with the woman he loved and their child. In the hospital corridor, the air was thick with the smell of disinfectant. Serena lay quietly in her bed, gazing through the window at the gloomy sky. Her face was pale and her eyes held a hint of indescribable sorrow. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Leo's voice came from outside. He walked in, saw the frail woman before him, and hesitated. Someone is here to see you. Do you want to see them? Serena came to her senses and frowned slightly. She didn't want to see anyone, especially anyone connected to Ethan. She said softly, "Tell them I don't want to see them." Leo hesitated for a moment but did as she asked. He opened the door and saw Ethan's assistant, Mr. Chen, standing outside. "She doesn't want to see you. If you have anything to say, you can tell me, and I'll pass it on, Leo said politely but firmly. Mr. Chen glanced at Serena in the hospital room, then handed Leo a folder. Mr. Blackwood asked me to deliver this. Please give it to Miss Somers. Leo took the folder and nodded. I'll give it to her, Mr. Chen. May I ask what's wrong with her, Leo? I'm sorry, but patient privacy prevents me from disclosing that information to anyone other than family. Well, all right then. Sorry to bother you. With that, he closed the door and returned to the room. He placed the folder on Serena's bedside table and said softly, It's from Ethan's assistant. I don't know what's inside. Serena looked at the folder, a bitter taste in her mouth. She knew what it was, the divorce agreement. She took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Give it to me. Leo handed her the folder. She opened it, and as she had expected, it was the divorce agreement. A sharp pain shot through her heart, but she didn't cry. She just stared at the document. She knew she didn't have the strength to fight with Ethan anymore. She didn't want to be hurt any further. She picked up a pen and signed her name on the divorce agreement. After signing, she put the pen down, closed her eyes, and tears streamed down her face. She felt as if her heart had been shattered into a million pieces, never to be whole again. Leo saw her pained expression and felt a pang of sadness. He took her hand. Serena, don't cry. No matter what happens, I'll be by your side. Serena opened her eyes and looked at Leo, a flicker of gratitude in them. She knew she still had her parents and Leo, her friend. She couldn't give up. In less than a week, Ethan used his connections to get the divorce certificate from City Hall and had Mr. Chen deliver it to Serena. When Mr. Chen appeared at the hospital room door again, Serena was no longer emotional. She calmly took the divorce certificate, glanced at it, and set it aside. Tell him I received it, Serena said faintly. Before leaving, Mr. Chen relayed Ethan's message. The president said that if you ever need help, he will do what he can for old time's sake. With his task completed, Mr. Chen left. The end of this marriage was, perhaps, a release for Serena. In the divorce settlement, Ethan was generous. Perhaps out of respect for their time together, he gave her their marital home and a cold $3 million in her bank account. After her divorce from Ethan, Serena endured the torment of terminal cancer alone. Knowing her time was short, her biggest worry was her elderly parents. To provide them with a future, Serena decided to adopt a child from an orphanage. It was also a way to fulfill her dream of being a mother. Leo smiled, his handsome face full of concern, like a ray of sunshine. He walked over to Serena and put down a file. Serena, I've taken care of the paperwork. If you're ready, you can adopt the child today. Thank you, Leo. Serena still liked to call him by his first name. Leo sat down. Serena, the child is very well behaved and sweet. I know. They sat in silence. A gentle breeze rustled the curtains, and patches of light danced around the room. Serena's long hair was lifted by the wind. Leo stood up to close the window, but Serena stopped him. Leo, my chemotherapy starts soon. I want to enjoy the feeling of the breeze a little longer. It's okay, Serena. It's okay. Just stay positive. Your hair, it will grow back. Serena smiled faintly and tried to get up, but the damned illness had sapped her strength so much that she could barely pull back the covers. She fell into Leo's arms. Leo's eyes filled with sadness, but he kept a smile on his face. He couldn't cry, couldn't show any sign of grief. He just wanted to smile for this girl, to be with her until the very end. You're so clumsy, just like you used to be. Leo, I've always been clumsy. I just slipped. Leo helped Serena up and put on her coat. They were going to an orphanage. Serena knew she didn't have long to live, but her parents were still alive. She was afraid that when they got old, there would be no one to care for them. In all their years of marriage, Serena and her husband had never been able to have a child. Perhaps that was the root of their marital breakdown, and the brain cancer was just the final straw that broke the camel's back. Every step Serena took was a struggle, a side effect of the medication. Leo's heart ached. If I could, I would bear it all for her. Leo had had a crush on her in college, but the pressure of medical school had kept him silent. It was the biggest regret of his life. But there was no turning back time. He had watched her graduate, start her career, and get married. And now, this broken and battered girl had returned to him, as strong and optimistic as ever. Tiny beads of sweat formed on Serena's forehead. Leo walked over and knelt. Hop on, your chariot awaits, princess. Serena giggled, covering her mouth. She gently climbed onto Leo's broad back, leaning against him with a sweet smile. If only he had spoken up sooner, Serena was so light on his back. Leo's face was grave, his mind filled with the beautiful and warm memories of their college days. But they could never go back. The world was once pure white, for both men and women. But in the great dying vat of society, they all become a myriad of colors. What's the girl's name? Tilly. Serena just wanted to hold on a little longer, just a little longer, to pour all her heart and soul into this adopted child, to leave something behind. Leo felt his heart beat calmly. The leaves were falling, and the wind carried a floral scent. Leo walked over to a flower bed and picked a flower. It's beautiful, isn't it? Serena tucked the flower behind her ear, holding down her messy hair. The path ahead was clean and bathed in sunlight. By the way, Serena, you need to eat more, even if you don't have an appetite. I will, Leo. I have to live a few more years. They walked to the parking lot. Leo carefully helped Serena into the passenger seat. She looked more comfortable. Leo, do you think I can be a good mother? You will. Serena is the best at everything she does, Leo said, his voice trembling slightly. Leo made a call and got out of the car. Soon, the orphanage gate opened. Serena looked over. A staff member was leading a child by the hand. The child's clothes were a bit big, but clean. Her little face was rosy, and she had cute animal hair clips in her pigtails. The girl looked scared. Serena remembered being just like this child, full of fear of this strange and cold world. Serena got out of the car. Though she was weak, she smiled and walked towards the child. The girl was beautiful and cute, with shy eyes and a pouting lip. Serena knelt and held out her hand. Hello, my name is Serena Sommers, Tilly. From now on, I'll be your new mother. Tilly stepped back. Leo finished talking to the staff member and walked over. He didn't say anything, just watched quietly. Serena's eyes were gentle, and she smiled brightly. Tilly, it's okay, I'll take good care of you. Really? Serena held out her pinky. Let's pinky swear. Pinky swear. Leo watched this scene, his heart filled with relief. He knew Serena had a natural maternal instinct. She would be a wonderful mother. Afterward, they went to the mall. It was bustling with people, but for Serena and Tilly, it was a whole new world. Serena held Tilly's small hand, patiently helping her pick out daily necessities. They went to the children's clothing section, where Serena picked out a few pretty dresses and shoes for Tilly to try on. In her new clothes, Tilly looked even more adorable and lively. Serena also bought her some toys and books, hoping she would find happiness here. Throughout the process, Serena constantly asked for Tilly's opinion, respecting her choices. She wanted Tilly to feel that in this new home, she was valued and loved. Leo watched them, his heart filled with emotion. He knew Serena's life was short, but she was pouring all her energy into loving this new life. This maternal love was immeasurable. At the mall exit, Serena carried several bags of new purchases, while Tilly clung tightly to her. The setting sun cast a golden glow on them, as if enveloping this newly formed mother and daughter in a halo of light. Ethan was holding his wife's hand, picking out baby formula in the infant section. His gaze was gentle and focused, as if he were looking at his own child. A sharp pain shot through Serena's heart, but she quickly composed herself and pretended not to see them, continuing to browse the clothes. Tilly looked at the couple curiously, unaware of their connection to Serena. Serena gently squeezed her hand, signaling her to be quiet. Just then, Ethan's wife saw Serena and the child who had appeared out of nowhere. She pulled Ethan over. Serena, long time no see, Ivy spoke first, her tone laced with a hint of provocation. Serena looked up and gave her a cool glance. Yes, long time no see, Ivy, and this child is. Serena's gaze softened as she looked at the child beside her. She said without hesitation, "This is my child, Tilly." "She's very cute," Ethan's wife said, deliberately changing the subject to ease the tension. Serena didn't reply, just smiled and patted Tilly's head. Tilly seemed to sense the tension and clung to Serena. Ethan remained silent, looking at Serena with a complex expression. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he said nothing. Just then, Serena felt a wave of discomfort. She knew she needed to go to the restroom. She nodded to the couple, indicating she had to leave. In front of the restroom mirror, Serena looked at her haggard reflection, a sense of inexplicable sadness welling up inside her. When she came out, she unexpectedly ran into Ethan. He was standing at the end of the hallway, as if waiting for her. "Serena, let's talk." Ethan's voice was a bit hoarse. Serena stopped and looked at him coldly. "Is there anything left for us to talk about?" "About Leo." Ethan hesitated, but he said it anyway. "Serena, he's my friend. My relationship with him is not as sordid as you think." Ethan looked at her, a flash of pain in his eyes. He knew he had lost Serena's heart and the person who had once loved him so deeply. "I'm sorry, Serena," Ethan said in a low voice, full of helplessness and regret. "I need a child. Serena, I know I never blamed you. You don't have to apologize to me." She smiled. "Congratulations on starting a new life." There was no jealousy or resentment in her eyes, only sincere blessings. Ethan looked at her, surprised. He hadn't expected her to be so calm. He opened his mouth to say something, but in the end, he just nodded. "Thank you." Serena nodded slightly, then turned to leave. As she turned, a sense of relief washed over her. A complex emotion surged through Ethan's heart. But for some reason, a wave of panic washed over him, but Serena didn't want to hear another word from him. She turned and left, leaving Ethan standing alone in the empty hallway. Their relationship was completely broken, like a shattered mirror that could never be put back together. They became strangers in each other's lives, walking their separate paths, never to cross again. Serena's cancer progressed, and the doctors had confirmed it was incurable. Facing the countdown of her life, her deepest desire was to spend her final moments with her family. On a sunny afternoon, Serena brought Tilly back to her parents' home. After her divorce from Ethan, her parents had also moved out of the house Ethan had bought for them and returned to their old home. Serena didn't want the marital home. She planned to sell it and buy a new one for Tilly's future. Though it was luxurious and comfortable, it was filled with memories and pain. "Mom, Dad, we're home," Serena said with a gentle push of the door and a smile. Her face was pale, but her eyes were full of determination and warmth. Her parents' faces lit up with joy when they saw Serena and Tilly. They rushed to embrace them tightly. "Serena, what a surprise, what did the doctor say? Are you allowed to be out of the hospital?" her mother asked with concern. Serena shook her head gently and smiled. "It's nothing, Mom. I just wanted to come home and spend time with you and Tilly." Her father looked at her, a hint of worry in his eyes. "Your illness, how is it?" Serena held her father's hand and comforted him. "Dad, don't worry. I'll take good care of myself. The most important thing now is for us to be together as a family." Her mother looked at Tilly and gently stroked her head. "Tilly, it's so good to have you here. We'll take good care of you." Tilly nodded obediently. Though young, she could already feel the warmth and love of this family. Her parents fully supported the adoption. They adored Tilly, perhaps because she resembled a young Serena, a sign of their special bond. In the twilight of Serena's life, her days with her family were gilded with a golden warmth. Sunlight streamed through the sheer curtains, filling the cozy little house, every corner infused with the feeling of home. In the kitchen, Serena and her mother stood side by side, busy preparing dinner. A faint smile played on Serena's lips. Despite her weakening body, she insisted on cooking a hearty meal for her family. Her mother would occasionally turn to look at her, her eyes filled with a mixture of love and sorrow. After dinner, the family gathered around the television to watch a light-hearted comedy. Serena leaned back on the sofa, with Tilly nestled in her arms. She would gently stroke Tilly's hair or whisper to her, savoring the rare moments of peace. On a weekend afternoon, Serena took Tilly to the park. The warm sun shone down on them as they strolled across the grass. Serena taught Tilly the names of different flowers and told her stories from her own childhood. Tilly listened intently, her eyes sparkling with curiosity and admiration. As the sun began to set, Serena sat on a park bench, holding Tilly in her arms. She took a bank card from her pocket and placed it in Tilly's small hand. "Tilly, this is from Mommy. When I'm gone, you must keep it safe and use it to follow your dreams." Serena's voice was gentle yet firm. Tilly looked at the card, not fully understanding its significance, but she could feel Serena's love and hope. She clutched the card tightly and looked up, her childish voice asking, "Mommy, where are you going?" Serena's voice was gentle. "Mommy is going to a very faraway place. I'll become a star in the sky, always watching over you, watching you grow up healthy and strong. Will you be the brightest star, Mommy?" Serena nodded. "Yes." "Mommy, Tilly will be a good girl from now on." Hearing this, a tear of relief welled up in Serena's eye. She hugged Tilly tightly, kissing her forehead, her heart filled with an endless love and blessing. In her final moments, Serena used her love and wisdom to pave a path for Tilly's future. She knew that even after she was gone, Tilly would carry her love and hopes, bravely facing the future and embracing the beautiful life that awaited her. Leo stood at Serena's door, holding a gift. He took a deep breath and knocked gently. The door swung open to reveal Serena's smiling face, her eyes shining with a warm light. "Leo, you're here," Serena said with a smile, taking the gift from his hands. "Come in and have a seat." Leo stepped inside, captivated by the warm scene before him. Tilly was playing on the carpet with a colorful balloon. "Hello, Uncle Leo." Tilly immediately ran over to him and greeted him sweetly. "You're such a good girl, Tilly," Leo said, bending down to pat her head, his eyes filled with a gentle light. At the dinner table, Serena's parents warmly welcomed Leo. The family sat together, enjoying their meal. Leo felt the warmth of this family, and the heaviness in his heart seemed to lift for a moment. Leo looked out the window and saw Ethan standing downstairs. "Ethan is here," Leo said calmly. Serena didn't seem surprised by his presence. A complex emotion flickered in her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. "Let's eat," Serena said, closing the window. He had come here on a whim, wanting to see how Serena was living now. Ethan had been to the large apartment they used to live in, the one he had given her after the divorce. She was planning to sell it, that was her choice. What right did he have to interfere now? Ethan tried to recall the moments he had shared with Serena. The sweetness and happiness seemed so close. However, he also vividly remembered his infidelity, a past he couldn't escape. Sitting in his car, Ethan's phone buzzed incessantly. It was Ivy. "Where are you? Did you go to see Serena?" "Ethan, you're divorced. When are you coming back? I've already made dinner." "Mom is helping us pick a wedding venue. Can you come back and take a look?" Ethan stayed for a moment longer, then drove away. He had sent messages to Serena, but she never replied. They were like stones sinking into the sea. After dinner, Serena walked Leo downstairs. When they reached the bottom of the stairs, Serena couldn't hold on any longer. She coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed weakly into Leo's arms. Looking at the car disappearing into the darkness, she whispered, "Am I dying?" Leo frantically searched her pockets for her medicine. "No, you're not. You'll get better. If we can't cure you here, we'll go abroad. It's nice that he could come see me before I die. I thought. He didn't care about me anymore." In the final days of her life, Serena's long hair had been gently shaved, revealing the pale face that had once been hidden beneath. Her body grew weaker by the day, but her eyes held a sense of peace. He knew how much every girl cherished her beauty. So, Leo left the hospital room and began searching for a suitable wig. He visited several hair salons and accessory shops, finally finding a wig that matched Serena's hair color and had a natural style. When he returned to the hospital room, Leo gently placed the wig on her head. The reflection in the mirror showed the old Serena, her beautiful dark hair once again framing her face. A long-lost smile appeared on her lips. "Leo, look, am I beautiful again?" Serena asked with a smile. Leo looked at her, a warmth spreading through his heart. He nodded and said gently, "Yes, Serena, you've always been beautiful." They looked at each other and smiled, but their hearts were filled with a bitter sorrow. In the final days of her life, Serena lay in her hospital bed, her face pale and weak, but her eyes shone with an unusually bright light. She suddenly turned her head to look at Leo and said in a faint but firm voice, "Leo, I want to see the sea." Leo, who was tidying her blankets, paused and looked up at her. He saw the longing and desire in her eyes, and his heart ached. But he still nodded gently, "Okay, Serena. I'll take you to see the sea." The early morning sun streamed through the hospital window, bringing a touch of warmth to the cold room. Leo pushed Serena's wheelchair out of the hospital. A gentle breeze carried the salty scent of the sea. The sound of the wheels echoed in the quiet morning streets as they finally arrived at the beach. The sea breeze gently tousled Serena's hair, and a look of unprecedented peace and serenity washed over her face. "It's beautiful," Serena said softly, her gaze fixed on the endless ocean, as if in silent conversation with it. Leo stood beside her, holding her hand tightly. He said nothing, but his eyes and actions told her he would be with her until the very end. Leo pushed the wheelchair, walking slowly beside Serena. He took a deep breath, gathered his courage, and said, "Serena, you know I've always liked you, from the first moment I saw you." Serena turned her head slightly to look at him, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She smiled faintly. "Is that so?" Leo smiled back, recalling their first meeting. "That time, you bumped into me in the cafeteria. You were holding a freshly written thesis. You hurried away, but I remembered you instantly. You had this focused and serious look that was really captivating." Hearing this, a warmth spread through Serena's heart. She hadn't realized she had left such a deep impression. She smiled. "So we crossed paths so long ago." Leo nodded and continued, "After that, I secretly paid attention to you. I followed all your exams, all your activities. You were a kindergarten education major, always top of your class. You were amazing. I always thought how wonderful it would be to be with you." Listening to Leo's confession, Serena was filled with emotion and a sense of wonder. She gently squeezed his hand. "Leo, thank you for always being by my side. Even though our fate came a little late, I'm truly grateful for you." Leo suddenly summoned the courage to ask, "Can you tell me about you and Ethan? How did you two meet?" "Ethan and I met on a blind date. I remember that day." Sunlight streamed through the cafe's glass window, casting a glow on Serena and adding a touch of radiance to her gentle features. She sat at a table by the window, holding a delicate coffee cup, her eyes occasionally glancing towards the door in anticipation of her blind date. The doorbell chimed, and a tall, well-dressed man walked in. He scanned the cafe, and his eyes finally settled on Serena. He smiled and walked towards her table. "Hello, I'm Ethan Blackwood," the man said, extending his hand with a warm and confident tone. Serena stood up and politely shook his hand. "Hello, I'm Serena Sommers. It's a pleasure to meet you." After they sat down, the waiter brought them 2 cups of hot coffee. Ethan gently stirred his coffee and broke the silence. "You're just as beautiful as they said." Serena smiled slightly. "Thank you. You're very handsome and accomplished as well." Serena was an introvert and not very talkative. After a few simple exchanges, they ran out of things to say. Ethan nodded and continued, "What are your hobbies? Do you like to travel?" Serena thought for a moment and replied, "I like to read and draw. I like to travel too, but I've been busy with work lately, so I haven't had much time." "Drawing, that's great," Ethan said with a hint of admiration in his eyes. "We should go to an art exhibition together sometime." Serena's lips curved into a slight smile. "Okay." They hit it off, their conversation flowing from hobbies to work, family, and even future plans. Serena discovered that Ethan was not only handsome, but also intelligent and mature. "To be honest, I've always found blind dates a bit awkward, but talking to you feels so natural, like we've known each other for a long time," Ethan said candidly. Serena didn't know how to respond. "Really?" Ethan smiled. "So, would you be willing to give me a chance to get to know you better?" His directness made Serena's face flush. She clutched her coffee cup and nodded shyly. "Okay." They looked at each other and smiled, as if their hearts had secretly drawn closer in that moment. The sunlight streaming through the window bathed them in a warm glow. It was a moment Serena would never forget. Serena wasn't without admirers, but she was quiet and reserved, preferring to live in her own world and do her own thing. She had dated someone once, but he had broken up with her because he found her too boring. He ended up with her college roommate. Serena hadn't seemed particularly heartbroken. The only serious relationship she had ever had was with Ethan. Serena loved the sea because Ethan loved it. He said that the sound of the waves could calm him down, no matter how troubled he was. The sun's rays pierced through the morning mist, casting a warm golden hue on the soft sand. The waves gently lapped at the shore, creating a soft, rhythmic sound that seemed to whisper of the morning's tranquility. Serena, dressed in a light white dress, sat in a wheelchair, the hem of her dress fluttering in the gentle breeze, her hair tousled by the sea wind. Beside her sat Tilly, in a pink dress and a small floral hat, looking like a delicate princess. Her small hand was tightly clasped in Serena's, her eyes filled with curiosity and anticipation. "Mommy, look at the seagulls over there, they're flying so high," Tilly pointed to the circling seagulls, her voice full of excitement. Serena smiled at Tilly and gently stroked her hair. "Yes, they're like free spirits, soaring through the sky, chasing their dreams." They sat quietly on the beach, watching the beautiful sunrise. The sun gradually rose, painting the sky in a brilliant golden color. The sea reflected the sun's radiance, shimmering and beautiful. "Mommy, I want to be like a seagull, flying high and far to see the world." Tilly's eyes sparkled with longing. Serena looked at Tilly with tenderness, her heart filled with emotion and pride. "As long as you work hard, you will achieve your dreams. Mommy will always be by your side, supporting you." With that, Serena began to teach Tilly to draw. She gently held Tilly's small hand, sketching the beautiful beach scene, one stroke at a time. Tilly was a diligent student, her eyes shining with focus and enthusiasm. Next, Serena taught Tilly to sing. Her voice was sweet and melodious, and Tilly hummed along with her. Their voices drifted on the sea breeze, as if painting the entire beach with a joyful hue. Finally, Serena led Tilly to a piano. She gently played the keys, and a beautiful melody filled the air. Tilly sat beside the piano, watching intently as Serena's fingers danced across the keys, her eyes filled with a longing for music and a sense of wonder. During their 3 days together, Serena gave all her love to this child. She not only taught Tilly many things, but more importantly, she made Tilly feel the warmth of a mother's love through her care and companionship. Serena leaned her head on Leo's shoulder, her voice weak and trembling, like a whisper in the wind. "Leo, the sunrise, is it coming soon?" Leo held her hand tightly, feeling its warmth fade. His voice was filled with an endless sorrow and reluctance. "Soon, Serena. It's coming soon." But despite their long wait, the sky remained a deep, dark black without a hint of light. Serena looked up at the dark sky, a flicker of confusion and disappointment in her eyes. "But why is the sky still so dark?" Leo's heart felt as if it were being torn apart. He held back his tears and said in a trembling voice, "Maybe even the heavens don't want you to leave, so the sun is reluctant to rise." Serena smiled faintly, a smile filled with helplessness and regret. "Is that so? I wish there was a next life. I didn't know you liked me so much. If there is a next life, I'll make it up to you." Leo held her tightly, as if trying to hold on to her fading life with his own strength. "Serena, don't say that. I just want you to live. I just want you by my side." Just then, a faint red glow appeared on the eastern horizon, the first sign of sunrise. Leo cried out excitedly, "Serena, the sunrise, it's here." Serena struggled to open her eyes, a faint smile on her face. I see it. It's so beautiful." But her voice grew weaker and weaker, eventually fading into a gentle breeze. Her body grew cold and still. Serena was gone. Her life, like a fleeting sunrise, was beautiful but brief. At her funeral, her ashes were scattered into the sea. With the ebb and flow of the waves, her soul seemed to find peace. Leo stood on the shore, gazing at the tumultuous ocean, his heart filled with an endless sorrow. He knew Serena had left this world, but her love, her smile, would forever remain in his heart. Leo held Tilly's small hand as they stood by the sea, gazing at the magnificent ocean. The waves gently lapped at the shore. Leo looked down at Tilly, his eyes filled with a gentle and deep love. He spoke softly, his voice tinged with sadness and nostalgia. "Tilly, do you know? Your mommy was the only person in the world who loved you the most." Tilly looked up at Leo with her clear eyes, as if searching for an answer in his face. She was too young to understand the meaning of death, but she could feel the weight of his words. "Will mommy come back after she dies?" "Daddy Leo, Tilly wants to wait here for mommy to come back. I'm afraid she'll come back and not see me." Leo gently stroked Tilly's head, a tear glistening in his eye. "Tilly, even though mommy has left us, her love will never disappear. Whenever you miss her, just come here and look out at the sea." Tilly nodded, though not fully understanding. "I know, Daddy Leo." A week later, the Somers family was still grieving the loss of Serena. Ethan stood at their door, clutching a beautiful wedding invitation. His face was a mask of complex emotions. Inside, Serena's parents sat on the sofa, their faces etched with displeasure. Ethan walked over and handed the invitation to Serena's father. "Mr. and Mrs. Somers, this is my wedding invitation. I hope you will honor us with your presence." His gaze was fixed on the closed door of a room, never leaving it. He didn't know what he was hoping for. Serena's mother took the invitation, but didn't open it. She looked at Ethan with cold eyes and burst out, "Ethan Blackwood, what are you trying to do?" Serena's mother stood up, her voice trembling with anger. "Do you have any idea how much you hurt Serena? We raised our daughter with love and care, and you broke her into pieces, and now you want us to attend your wedding. That's a joke. I'm sorry. We were husband and wife once. Can I please see Serena? There are some things I want to say to her in person." At the mention of Serena's name, Helen flew into a rage. She stood up and threw the invitation on the floor. "Ethan Blackwood, you animal, you are the last person who has the right to mention Serena. Get out of my house right now. We don't want to see you. Get out." Ethan was swept out of the house by Helen with a broom. As he left, he saw a photo on the wall, covered with a black cloth in the dimly lit private room of a club. The air was thick with the smell of alcohol and cigarettes. Ethan sat on the sofa, a glass in his hand, clearly having had too much to drink. His eyes were glazed over, lost in thought. A few of his friends sat around him, smoking and drinking, their faces wearing playful smiles. One of them teased, "Ethan, I hear you finally got rid of that dead weight, Serena." "Congratulations." Ethan said nothing, just took another sip of his drink. Another friend chimed in with a laugh. "Ethan, you're finally free. A woman like Serena was never good enough for you. You're a free man now. You can finally enjoy life." "Oh, looks like you're a little reluctant to let go, huh?" a friend teased. But then again, this divorce was a smart move. A woman like Serena would only hold you back. Ethan shook his head, not wanting to continue the conversation. He stood up, wanting to go to the restroom to clear his head, but the alcohol had made him unsteady on his feet. "Ethan, take it easy," a friend said, quickly getting up to support him. "Don't drink too much. It's not good for you." Ethan, slurring slightly, said, "You guys keep drinking, it's on me." Drunk and disoriented, Ethan sat in the driver's seat, his mind a blur. An indescribable impulse washed over him. In the darkness, the streetlights cast a faint glow, as if illuminating his lonely journey. Ethan's car sped through the empty streets. But as he drove, for some reason, he found himself at the marital home he had once shared with Serena. Ethan pushed open the car door and staggered inside. The room was empty, devoid of Serena's presence and scent. He looked around. The familiar furniture and decorations were still there. He closed his eyes, trying to lose himself in the memories, as if it could temporarily erase the harsh reality. Images of their past flooded his mind. "Ethan, what do you think of this sofa color?" Serena had once asked with a smile, holding a fabric sample. "It's beautiful, as long as you like it," he had replied, his heart full of love and contentment for her. Or that night when they were cooking dinner together in the kitchen. "Ethan, can you hand me that pot lid?" Serena had said, stirring the food. He had walked over with a smile, and as he handed her the lid, he had stolen a kiss on her cheek. In that moment, their eyes were only for each other, filled with a deep love. And that day, Ethan dragged his weary body home, opened the door, and was met with silence. He frowned, a sense of unease creeping in. Usually, Serena would be waiting for him. He walked into the living room and saw a figure lying on the sofa, his heart pounding. As he got closer, he realized it was Serena, lying there with her eyes closed, as still as if she had passed away. Ethan's initial panic quickly turned into a chuckle. He knelt and gently shook her. "Serena, if you don't get up, the dessert shop downstairs will be closed." Serena's eyelids fluttered, and then she shot up. She looked at Ethan with a triumphant smile. "Haha, you saw right through me again." Ethan smiled and shook his head. He pulled her up to sit beside him. "How was work today? Are you tired?" Serena asked with concern. Ethan sighed. "Seeing you, I'm not tired anymore." Serena smiled and patted his shoulder. "Then you should get some rest. I've prepared some snacks for you." Meanwhile, Ivy was at home, anxiously waiting for Ethan to return. She had called him several times, but he hadn't answered. A sense of unease and worry grew within her. In the dead of night, Ivy walked the silent streets, repeatedly dialing Ethan's number, but to no avail. A sense of foreboding began to creep into her heart. She had no idea where he could be. After some searching, an idea struck her. She stood at the door, hesitated for a moment, and then slowly opened it. Seeing the light on inside, she found Ethan lying on the sofa. The living room was neat and tidy, but it had the look of a place that hadn't been lived in for a long time. Ivy felt a sense of relief, but also a strange sense of triumph. She put down her bag and knelt by the sofa. "Honey, you drank too much. Why didn't you come home?" "Ethan," hearing the voice beside him, Ethan slowly opened his eyes. Seeing the figure before him in his hazy state, he reached out and touched the woman's face. Serena, Ivy's expression instantly froze, but she maintained her composure. Ethan, look carefully at who I am. Ethan sobered up, and when he saw the woman clearly, the affectionate look in his eyes vanished. What are you doing here? Waking up after a night of drinking, the sun was already high in the sky, but the house remained cold. He sat up. What are you doing here? Where were you last night? Why didn't you answer your phone? Ivy's tone was accusatory and resentful. Ethan, since when do you have the right to question my whereabouts? Ethan Blackwood, I can't question you. I'm going to be your wife. Don't you forget, you promised you would marry me. Ivy's voice grew sharper as she sensed his evasiveness. Ethan didn't answer. He avoided her gaze, not wanting her to know the truth. However, Ivy had already guessed most of it, and her resentment and jealousy intensified. Is it Serena? Ivy suddenly asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ivy's anger flared. She shouted, why can't you forget her? We're together now. Why do you still have to go see her? We have our own home now. Why did you have to come here? Have you ever thought about my feelings? Ivy's eyes filled with tears, and she felt a sharp pain in her heart. If you're done talking, then get out. Ethan Blackwood, why don't you understand? You and Serena are divorced. I am your wife. Ethan's eyes were cold. Do you think you came by your position honorably? Get out. The argument ended in a cold war between them. Ethan sat alone on the sofa, his head in his hands, a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside him. What had he done? Ivy, in tears, returned to Margaret Blackwood's house. Her eyes were red and swollen, her expression distraught. She had clearly been through an emotional storm. The moment she stepped inside, she burst into tears, her sobs filled with despair and helplessness. Mom, Ethan, he didn't come home again, Ivy choked out, her voice trembling. She hugged herself tightly, as if to ward off the pain in her heart. Hearing this, Margaret flew into a rage. Her eyes widened and she roared, that bastard, did he go to see that Serena again? Ivy nodded, sobbing uncontrollably. Yes, Mom, I heard he went to see Serena. How could he do this to us? He doesn't care about me or our child. All he thinks about is that Serena, no matter what, he and Serena are divorced. If he doesn't even want our child, I don't know what I'll do. Margaret trembled with anger. She shot up, her hands clenched into fists, as if to release the fury in her heart. She cursed, that Serena, she's such a shameless woman she can't even have children, and I gave her such a generous divorce settlement. She's still not satisfied. Hearing her mother-in-law's words, Ivy's own anger was ignited. She looked up at her, her eyes shining with a determined light. Mom, we can't let Ethan continue like this. We have to find a way to get him back to us, back to this family. Margaret nodded emphatically, a resolute look in her eyes. You're right. We can't let that Serena win. I'm going to go find Ethan and knock some sense into him. Margaret Blackwood stormed into the Somers home, wearing an expensive fur coat, her face a mask of contempt. She moved with a powerful stride, as if on a mission. As soon as she entered, she pointed a finger at Serena's parents and began to shout, "Can't you control your own child? She's divorced from my Ethan, but she won't leave him alone, still trying to seduce him. She's a curse, a disaster for anyone who gets involved with her." We agreed. She gets $3 million and the apartment to divorce Ethan. Now the divorce is final, but she's trying to go back on her word, still trying to mess around with him. Serena's parents were stunned by her ferocity, unsure of how to respond. They stared at her, their eyes filled with a mixture of anger and helplessness. Margaret, oblivious to their feelings, continued her tirade. Your daughter can't even have a child, and she's trying to get her hands on our family's fortune. Do you have any shame? Her voice grew louder, and the air seemed to crackle with her anger. Serena's parents, provoked by her words, finally found their voices. What proof do you have that our daughter can't have children? Our family is perfectly healthy, and we have never done anything to wrong your family. You are the ones at fault. My daughter is a good, kind person. She has lived her life with integrity. I'm warning you, if you continue to cause trouble, don't blame me for being impolite. The air seemed to freeze, and the atmosphere became incredibly tense. Margaret and Serena's parents glared at each other, their emotions at a boiling point. Helen, who had been enduring the pain of losing her daughter, burst into tears and began to shout at Margaret. She pointed a finger at her, accusing her of having no conscience. Her voice trembled, and tears streamed down her face, a picture of utter grief. If I had known what kind of people you were, I would have rather died than let Serena marry into your family. Ethan cheated on my daughter behind her back, and now you're trying to slander her. I'm telling you, if you say one more word, I'll make sure your family regrets it, even if it's the last thing I do. Leo, returning from the beach with Tilly, saw the argument and immediately stepped in to separate the two women. It wasn't until a child's voice broke through the tension, "Grandma, please stop fighting, you'll wake up Mommy." Daddy Leo said Mommy is sleeping. Margaret sneered, "Sleeping? How can she be sleeping? Seducing men behind everyone's back, how can she sleep peacefully?" Leo snapped, "Enough, Mrs. Blackwood, isn't it enough that Serena is dead? How much further do you have to push people?" "Serena? She's dead? You'd make up a lie like that." Margaret raised her voice, her face a mask of ridicule as she looked at Helen. "And you, who are you? You're so close to this dead child's mother? You must be the adulterer." The air seemed to freeze. The once noisy environment fell silent. Everyone was shocked by Margaret's words. Helen's face turned pale, while Leo stared at her in disbelief, so angry he almost fainted. Leo retorted angrily, "Please watch your words. My relationship with Serena was purely platonic. Please stop making baseless accusations. Furthermore, I was Serena's attending physician. My name is Leo Vance. If you don't believe me, you can see Serena's death certificate. And this photo with that." Leo ripped the black cloth off the photo on the wall, revealing a black and white portrait of Serena. In the photo, Serena's eyes were gentle, and a faint smile played on her lips. Faced with this scene and the fact that the family was dressed in white, Margaret finally seemed to believe it. How could she be dead? You must be lying. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old to fall for such a trick?" Margaret stammered. Leo said with grave seriousness, "No one would joke about something like this. Serena was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer 6 months ago. A week ago, Serena passed away. If your family has any conscience, you shouldn't be here at a time like this." And Ethan let him ask his own conscience if he can sleep at night. His wife had terminal cancer, and he was out having a child with another woman, secretly raising him for 5 years. Mrs. Blackwood, what goes around comes around. The Blackwood family is heartless and ungrateful. One day, you will get what you deserve. Margaret was so scared she was babbling. She finally fled the scene. Looking at the photo on the wall, Margaret could never have imagined that Serena was gone. Under the bright sunlight, Margaret felt a chill run down her spine. In all the years, Serena had been part of the Blackwood family. Besides not being able to have children, she had been a flawless daughter-in-law. Margaret couldn't imagine what would happen if Ethan found out Serena was dead. To prevent Ethan from learning of Serena's death, Margaret expedited the wedding arrangements for him and Ivy. In the Blackwood living room, the afternoon sun streamed through the curtains, casting a warm yet solemn glow on the exquisite furniture. Margaret sat on the sofa, her brow furrowed, a wedding planner in her hand, clearly preoccupied. She would occasionally look out the window, as if searching for some comfort. Just then, the butler entered the living room and reported respectfully, "Madam, the wedding preparations are almost complete, but as for the young master..." Margaret cut him off, her voice low, "I know it's not easy with Ethan, but he absolutely cannot know about Serena. The wedding must happen as soon as possible. We can't delay any longer." The butler looked troubled. "But the young master's feelings for the young mistress, Miss Somers, he probably won't accept this so soon." Margaret took a deep breath, her eyes firm. "Ethan is a sensible child. He will understand my intentions. Ivy is a good aunt, she can bring him happiness, and she has given our family an heir. I will talk to him myself. He will agree." The butler nodded and left the living room. Margaret sat alone on the sofa, lost in thought. Hiding Serena's death from Ethan was cruel, but she believed it was for his own protection. A little while later, Ethan walked into the living room. He looked tired, with a hint of melancholy on his face. Seeing him, Margaret quickly stood up and went to him. "Ethan, you're here. I was just about to talk to you." Ethan nodded and sat on the sofa opposite her. Margaret looked at him, a complex emotion flickering in her eyes. "Ethan, I know you're still thinking about Serena, but you have to move on." Margaret's voice was gentle yet firm. "Ivy is a good girl. Isn't she a design major? She can even go to work with you in the future. She can help you with the company. She's been waiting for you. I think you two should get married as soon as possible." Hearing this, Ethan frowned. "Mom, I know you mean well, but I'm really not in the mood to think about marriage right now." Margaret took his hand, her tone earnest. Ethan, you can't go on like this. You and Serena are divorced, and you know that Leo guy is the one Serena loves. It's impossible between you two. Serena is a smart woman. She knew she couldn't have children, so she adopted one for herself. Ethan was silent for a moment, a complex emotion welling up inside him. Seeing his hesitation, Margaret grew anxious. Ethan, you have to forget the past and start over. Ivy is a good girl. She'll make you happy. I've decided your wedding will be in the next few days. Ethan looked up abruptly, his eyes wide with shock. So soon? Margaret nodded. Yes, we can't delay any longer. I'll go talk to Ivy myself and have her get ready. You two should get your marriage license as soon as you can. Ethan was eventually persuaded. He pinched the bridge of his nose. The divorce had been her choice, and then there was the child. But he still hesitated about getting the marriage license. Let's not rush the marriage license. We can do it after the wedding. A few days later, the wedding proceeded as planned. Sunlight filtered through the clouds, casting a soft glow on the lush green lawn where the hotel wedding was being held. Ethan, dressed in a sharp suit, stood on the lawn, his gaze deep and somewhat distant. He stared into the distance, as if lost in thought. Ivy, in a pristine white wedding gown, walked slowly towards him. Her face was radiant with happiness, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. She saw Ethan, and her heart fluttered, but she also noticed his strange demeanor. Margaret sat in the audience, her expression also uneasy. The officiant stood at the front and began to read the wedding vows. Ethan and Ivy followed his lead, exchanging rings and pledging their love for each other. But just then, a video began to play on the large screen at the hotel. They stared at the screen, their expressions shifting from shock to confusion and pain. On the screen, in front of the Somers home, a group of people dressed in black, their faces contorted with rage, surrounded the entrance, shouting curses filled with hatred and anger. Their actions were crude and barbaric, as if they wanted to devour the entire Somers family. Disgusting. Of all things, she had to be a homewrecker. Yeah, ruining a family and even attacking a baby a few months old. They're disgusting. Just then, Serena appeared on the screen. She was in simple loungewear, her face as pale as a sheet, her eyes filled with a deep exhaustion and pain. Her body seemed unable to support her own weight as she weakly explained, it's not like that. I'm not a homewrecker. I'm not. Suddenly, Serena stopped, clutching her chest, and began to cough violently. Her body trembled. Perhaps unable to bear the blow, Serena fainted. The guests' chatter died down as they watched the heartbreaking scene on the screen. Then, a mouthful of blood spurted from Serena's lips, staining her clothes. By then, Serena had already lost her hair. Seeing the blood, the crowd realized things had gone too far and began to disperse. Then, more vicious words appeared on the screen. Margaret rushed forward, her face filled with anger. She glared at the screen and shouted, "Who did this? Who dares to play this at a wedding?" Ethan's eyes were glued to the screen, to the woman who had become nothing but a skeleton. His hands trembled. He couldn't accept that Serena had suffered so much. He turned to the woman in the wedding dress beside him, his eyes red. "What is going on?" Ivy shook her head. "I don't know. Ethan, I didn't do it." The atmosphere at the wedding instantly turned frigid. The once joyful mood was shattered by the sudden turn of events. Leo's appearance was like a bombshell, sending shockwaves through the guests. Leo, in a sharp suit, had a terrifyingly dark expression. He walked onto the stage, his eyes fixed on Ethan and Ivy, a cold smile playing on his lips. Leo's voice was loud and icy. "Everyone, I have something important to tell you. About Ethan Blackwood and Ivy Reed, their relationship is not what you think." Leo took a deep breath and continued. "Ethan, for years you have been keeping your former sponsored student, Ivy Reed, as your mistress. Your relationship has long been impure. Furthermore, I have evidence of their hotel stays, as well as a villa that Ethan bought for Ivy." His words were met with an uproar from the crowd. "Ethan, I really shouldn't be here to spoil your big day. Serena even said she hoped you would be happy. Even in her last moments, she was thinking of you. But what have you done for her all these years? Betrayal, infidelity, coldness, and you even let your mother go to the Somers home to insult and humiliate Serena's parents. Ethan, you did nothing for Serena while she was alive, and now you won't even let her family rest in peace after her death. You've tarnished her name, made her out to be a homewrecker. Now Serena's parents are being pointed at and whispered about wherever they go. If Serena were still alive, how heartbroken she would be. Why should someone like you get to live a guilt-free life without paying any price? Ethan's eyes turned red. You think I'll believe such a lie? She's alive and well. How could she be dead? At the wedding, the festive atmosphere seemed to clash with Ethan's mood. He stood in the crowd, his gaze as cold as ice, as if everything around him had nothing to do with him. Leo stood before him, a look of helplessness and determination on his face. Ethan, if I had known she would marry someone like you, I would have never gone abroad. I would have taken her from you. Leo's voice trembled slightly, his eyes shining with a firm light. Ethan glanced at him coldly, a sarcastic smile on his lips. Why should I believe you? Serena is dead. Leo took out a worn notebook and handed it to Ethan. This is Serena's diary. Read the last page and you'll understand everything. Ethan hesitated for a moment but took the diary. He flipped to the last page and saw 6 words written in a beautiful and affectionate hand, as if he could still feel the gentleness and determination with which Serena had written them. Ethan Blackwood, I love you. Ethan's body trembled. He looked up at Leo, his eyes filled with disbelief. Is this real? Leo nodded, his eyes welling up. It's real. Serena, she never really left you. You just refused to believe it. An indescribable emotion surged through Ethan. He felt as if he had been hit by a powerful force, unable to breathe. He turned abruptly and fled the wedding, leaving behind a scene of chaos and stunned silence. Behind him, Ivy cried out in despair, Ethan, where are you going? Margaret shouted, You come back here. He ran through the city streets, his heart filled with an endless longing and desire. He wanted to find Serena, to tell her that he had always loved her, that he had never changed. He pushed through the bustling crowds, crossed the noisy streets, and ran towards the places where Serena might be. Ethan stood at the door of Serena's parents' house, mustering all his courage to knock. The door slowly opened, and Serena's mother appeared, her eyes cold and distant. Ethan was about to speak, but she cut him off. What are you doing here? You're not welcome. Ethan's heart sank, but he didn't back down. He looked at her with determination. Auntie, I'm here to see Serena. Her mother's expression darkened. She picked up a nearby broom and pointed it at him. Get out, I don't want to see you again, haven't you caused us enough trouble? Ethan's heart ached, but he refused to give up. Auntie, please tell me where Serena is, I have to find her. How dare you even mention my daughter's name? Haven't you hurt Serena enough? And now you want to disturb our lives again? Ethan felt a wave of helplessness, but he persisted. Mom, Dad, I'm really worried about Serena. Please, tell me where she is. Serena's mother suddenly sneered, her whereabouts. Her whereabouts are on that photo on the wall, go see for yourself. Ethan's heart sank. He slowly raised his head and looked at the black and white photo on the wall. When he saw Serena's familiar and peaceful face, his world seemed to crumble. No, this can't be, he cried out, his body swaying. He rushed forward, his trembling hands caressing the face in the photo as tears streamed down his cheeks. Her parents watched his breakdown, a flicker of sorrow in their eyes. But they still said coldly, now you've seen it. Can you leave now? Ethan didn't answer. He knelt before them, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it would be like this. I really didn't know. His voice was filled with remorse and self-blame, as if he wanted to pour out all his pain. Seeing him like this, her parents couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. Serena's parents looked at the kneeling Ethan, their faces a mixture of anger and grief. Her mother's voice was sharp and trembling. Ethan Blackwood, what's the use of regret now? When you were cheating, did you ever think about Serena's feelings? She loved you so much, and you betrayed her. Now that she's dead, you finally feel sad for her. Where were you before? Ethan, do you think kneeling here can make up for your mistakes? The pain and hurt you caused Serena can never be undone. Ethan's body trembled. He closed his eyes and replayed the moments he had shared with Serena. The warm images, the sweet times, had now become his most painful memories. He remembered her radiant smile when they first met, her shy demeanor on their first date, every birthday and anniversary they had celebrated together. Those beautiful moments were now the deepest source of his pain. Ethan's heart was filled with remorse and self-blame. He finally understood that the person he had always loved was Serena. He regretted his betrayal and indifference, regretted not cherishing the time he had with her. Serena, I was wrong. he whispered, tears streaming down his face. He knew that nothing he did could bring her back. Ethan was eventually kicked out of the Sommers' home. He returned to the marital home he had shared with Serena, heartbroken, only to find that there was nothing of hers left. He tore at his hair, collapsing to the floor, Serena's words echoing in his ears. "Serena, if you ever do anything to wrong me, I will punish you severely." Now Ethan finally understood what Serena's punishment was. It was Serena disappearing from his life forever. Exhausted, Ethan returned to the Blackwood family home. As soon as he stepped inside, his mother greeted him, her face dark, her eyes blazing with anger. "So you decided to come back?" Margaret's voice was cold and stern. She pointed at Ethan's nose and began to scold him. "Why did you run away from your wedding? Do you have any idea how much shame you've brought upon our family?" Today's guests included relatives, friends, and Ethan's business partners. Ethan lowered his head in silence. He knew his actions had hurt his family, but at that moment, all he could think about was Serena, his heart filled with a longing and guilt that overshadowed everything else. Seeing his silence, Margaret grew even angrier. She continued to berate him. "For that dead woman, you abandoned Ivy. Have you lost your mind? What about our family's reputation?" At this, Ivy, who was standing nearby, finally broke down in tears. She looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and disappointment. "Ethan, why would you do this to me? Weren't we supposed to get married? Why did you run away?" Ivy's voice trembled as she sobbed. Ethan looked up at Ivy's tear-streaked face, a pang of guilt in his heart. He knew he had wronged her, but he couldn't lie to himself about his feelings. "Ivy, I'm sorry," he said in a low voice, a hint of helplessness and bitterness in his tone. "I can't lie to myself. The person I love has always been Serena." Hearing this, Ivy's sobs grew louder. She looked at him in disbelief. "You're saying you don't love me? What about the child? You don't want the child either?" Ethan looked at the baby, less than 3 months old, in the nanny's arms, and he broke down. "I'm sorry, it was my fault from the beginning. I wronged Serena. I deserved to die. They all said Serena was dead, but I didn't believe them. Now, I just want to find her, no matter where she is, whether she's angry with me or has left the city. I have to find her." "You're crazy, you're absolutely crazy. Snap out of it, Serena is dead." "Ethan, Mom, don't lie to me anymore. Serena is just mad at me. She's not dead. When I find her and explain everything, she'll forgive me. Maybe Serena is just playing a trick on me, right? I don't believe she would just leave me like this. I'll find her. I have to." Margaret looked at him, a sense of dread washing over her. "Ethan, don't scare me." His mind was consumed by a single thought: to return to the marital home he had once shared with Serena. It was a place filled with their memories, their laughter, their love. He yearned to find a trace of her there, a glimmer of hope to keep him going. Everything in the marital home was just as they had left it. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, clutching Serena's diary. He opened the first page, and the familiar handwriting seemed to whisper in his ear. He read every word, the pain in his heart like a rising tide. He saw their first meeting, their love, their arguments, their reconciliations, every moment as clear and real as if it had happened yesterday. "Serena, why were you so cruel, leaving me all alone in this world?" Ethan whispered, his vision blurred by tears. On the university campus, the sun slanted across her pale, gaunt face, but it could not dispel the gloom in her heart. Whispers surrounded her, piercing her heart like needles. The same classmates who had once smiled at her now looked at her with strange eyes, their lips moving in gossip. "I never thought she was that kind of person. Being a homewrecker, she has no shame." Every word was a sharp blade, cutting into her fragile soul. Ivy bit her lip hard, holding back the tears. She knew her reputation was ruined, a stain that would follow her for the rest of her life. In the professor's office, the atmosphere was heavy. The professor's gaze was cold and severe, as if trying to see right through her. "Ivy, your actions have brought significant negative attention to the university. As your professor, I can no longer tolerate your presence here. This is also the decision of the university administration." Ivy's heart sank. She pleaded, "Professor, I know I was wrong, but I really want to change. Please give me a chance to finish my studies. Please." The professor shook his head, his tone firm. "Ivy, expulsion is the university's decision. I can't change it. You must take responsibility for your actions." Ivy left the office, heartbroken, her world completely shattered. She didn't know how to face the future, let alone the innocent child. She thought of Ethan, the man she had once loved so deeply. Though his heart no longer belonged to her, she still held onto a sliver of hope for some comfort and support. Ivy went to Ethan's house. She stood outside, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell. But from inside came the cold voice of his mother. "Ivy, what are you doing here? Ethan isn't home, you should go." Ivy refused to give up. She pleaded, "Auntie, please let me see the child, I just want to see him." "I won't bother you." His mother's voice grew even sterner. "Ivy, I wanted to accept you, but your past, your seduction of Ethan, is not honorable. The whole city knows you drove Serena to her death. What right do you have to be in the Blackwood family now?" Ivy's heart felt as if it had been torn to shreds. She felt abandoned by the whole world. "Auntie, that's not what you said last time. You said I was your favorite daughter-in-law." "Mom, please open the door." Margaret slammed the door shut. She leaned against the door, defeated, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know how to face this cruel reality. It was she who had intentionally leaked Serena's home address online. It was she who had wanted to incite those people to cause trouble for the Sommers family, but she had never imagined things would turn out like this. Ivy's heart was shattered again. She felt hopeless. She silently turned and left. Ruined. Everything was ruined. Her education, her honors. She could have graduated from Metropolis University as a top student, with offers from prestigious firms. Now it was all gone. Everything was ruined. 3 years later, Ethan Blackwood's life had been turned upside down. The once successful business elite was now facing financial ruin after his company's financing failed due to his personal life scandal. His assets were seized, and his life was in turmoil. Ethan sat alone in a dark room, his eyes empty and lost. He had no choice but to accept this cruel reality. Everything he had once owned was now gone, and Ivy had suddenly disappeared. The last he heard of her was a shocking rumor from someone else. Ivy had been pregnant with another man's child, was discovered by the man's wife, had an abortion, and fled the country. Ethan stood at the door of Serena's family home, carrying carefully chosen gifts, his eyes filled with a mixture of determination and hope. He wanted to take care of the child Serena had adopted. Though he knew it wouldn't be easy, he was willing to try. He knocked gently, and soon the door opened. A young but determined-looking child stood before him. It was Tilly, the child Serena had adopted. Ethan smiled and knelt. "Tilly, I'm Uncle Ethan. I came to see you and brought you some gifts." Tilly looked at him with a blank expression, not reaching for the gifts. Instead, she said coldly, "I don't need your gifts and I don't want to see you." Ethan's heart ached, but he didn't give up. He continued gently, "Tilly, I know you might misunderstand me, but I really want to take care of you, just like your mommy did." Tilly's eyes suddenly widened, and her voice trembled. "You don't have the right to mention my mommy. You made her so miserable, and now you want to come here and pretend to care. Get out of here. I never want to see you again." Tilly's words pierced Ethan's heart. He stood there, speechless. Just then, Leo came out of the house. He saw Ethan and frowned. "Ethan, what are you doing here again? I warned you before not to disturb Tilly and our lives." Leo's voice was laced with anger. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. "Leo, I just want to take care of Tilly. She's my and Serena's child. I have a responsibility." "Enough," Leo cut him off. "Tilly is not your child. She is Serena's child, and she is my and Serena's child. We will take good care of her. We don't need your help. Please leave and never show your face here again." "Ethan, you don't have to pretend to be so devoted to Serena. You didn't care about her when she was alive. Now that she's dead, you're putting on a show. It's really unnecessary, and it's pathetic." Ethan was completely crushed by Leo's words. He silently turned and left, his heart filled with an endless sense of loss and pain. He knew the rift between him and Tilly was irreparable. After Ethan left in despair, Tilly took Leo's hand and said with disgust, "Daddy Leo, that man is so strange. He comes to our house every year. How does he know that mommy is sleeping in the sea? He goes there every day. I don't like him. He's so annoying." Leo patted the child's head. "All right, no more rude words. Go do your homework." Ethan was 35 now, not too old. It wouldn't be difficult for him to make a comeback. Now, the company was back on track. Most of the work was now handled by his assistant. Facing the azure sea, Ethan's hair was a mess in the wind. "In a few years, Tilly will be grown up. I will take care of our parents until their final days." Serena, people are strange. We only cherish what we have when it's gone. Because of your last wish, I haven't dared to let anything happen to me. I'm afraid I can't fulfill what you wanted to do. When our parents are gone, I'll come find you, okay? Ethan's eyes were filled with a weary and world-weary expression, and in his vision, he seemed to see a young Serena, smiling at him from across the sea. Ethan smiled back. Since being rejected by the Somers family, Ethan had not given up on Tilly. He understood he couldn't be directly involved in her life, but he chose to watch over her from a distance. Every morning, he would secretly follow her to school, making sure she was safe. On this day, sunlight dappled the ground through the leaves. Tilly, with her backpack on, skipped along the path to school, completely unaware of the figure following her. Suddenly, a strange man rushed out from the side and grabbed her arm. Tilly screamed in terror, struggling to break free. Seeing this, Ethan's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately rushed forward. He pushed the man away and shielded Tilly. The man, enraged, pulled out a sharp knife and lunged at Ethan. Ethan didn't flinch. He bravely fought the attacker. Their figures moved quickly through the street, the sounds of fighting and shouting filling the air. Tilly hid nearby, watching in terror, her heart filled with fear and anxiety. Seeing the blood on Ethan, she burst into tears. After a fierce struggle, Ethan finally subdued the attacker. He was panting, his clothes soaked with sweat. Tilly ran to him and threw herself into his arms, tears streaming down her face. "Uncle, thank you for saving me." Tilly's voice was choked with sobs. Ethan stroked her head and said gently, "Don't be afraid." Just then, the police arrived and took the attacker away. Due to his serious injuries, Ethan passed out and was taken to the hospital. Ethan had finally earned the child's acceptance. Serena's parents also came to visit him. Serena had been gone for many years. Though Ethan had been wrong, they had seen what he had done for the family and for the child, and in their hearts, they had forgiven him. The child Ethan had with Ivy was secretly taken abroad by her and never returned. The next time Ethan heard about the child, he had been sent to a juvenile detention center for murder. He was not of legal age and could not be convicted, so he was released on the spot. Serena's parents passed away peacefully in their old age. Ethan's parents also completely forgave him. He personally arranged their funerals, handling every detail with care. On the day of the funeral, the sky was gray, as if mourning with them. Ethan, in a black suit, stood before the memorial hall, his expression solemn. He saw Tilly, the child who had once been so hostile towards him, now a young woman. He walked over and gently patted her shoulder. "Tilly, don't be afraid, I'm here." "Daddy, Ethan?" The child had forgiven Ethan when he had risked his life to protect her, because her mother had told her in a dream to be kind to her father. Tilly looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. She nodded without a word. This year, Tilly turned 18. Ethan had prepared a grand yet simple celebration for her. Leo was delayed by surgery and couldn't make it. Tilly made a birthday wish. Late that night, Tilly caught him. "Can you tell me how you and Mommy met?" As Tilly grew older, her memory of Serena had faded, but from what everyone told her, she knew the mother who had adopted her loved her very much. So, Tilly had always kept a photo of Serena by her bedside. Ethan looked at Serena's photo, sat on the edge of the bed, and talked for a long, long time until the child fell asleep. Ethan took out a document. It was his gift to her. Ethan's body was found, lifeless. "Serena, I didn't forget my promise to you this time. I'm coming to find you the gift's contents. All of Ethan Blackwood's assets are to be inherited by Joy Somers.